Chapter 682. In this world, as long as there was heaven and earth, yuan qi, sun, moon, stars, birds, beasts, flowers, and trees, plus enough time, the demon clan would never go extinct. Demons didn't have to be born from the copulation of parents. Any creature in the world, as long as it gained intelligence, even if it was an ordinary wild cat, could absorb the yuan qi of the world, the essence of the sun and the moon, and the power of the stars. If it could continuously strengthen itself and transform, then it would be a demon. It could be said that in this world, even the most ordinary birds, beasts, flowers, and trees could become a demon clan as long as they had the opportunity. The demon clan did not rely on the demon clan itself to be passed down, but on all living things in this world. If the demon clan wanted to go extinct, it would have to destroy the entire world and wipe out all living things in this world. As long as there was no one in this world, no one had the ability to do so. The demon clan was born and nurtured by the heavens. All living things fought for freedom in this world. Even though the demon clan had declined in the ancient times, and the remnants of the demon clan were scattered all over the world, after tens of thousands of years of cultivation, there were still many demon clans left in almost every world. In the eyes of all heaven's cultivators, these monsters were merely stepping stones for cultivation. Inner cores, flesh, and blood were the best materials for cultivation, refining pills, and forging weapons. In some worlds, when the demon clan was weak, they would not kill them. Instead, they would give them time to grow. When they reached a certain level, they would kill them and take their inner cores and precious materials from the demon clan. It was as if they were rearing cattle and sheep. Stepping on the corpses of the demon clan, they kept climbing up. There were countless demon clans scattered throughout the heavens and realms. What? That old ghost He Xianfeng actually issued a demon-slaying order? There was a place filled with the fragrance of all kinds of flowers. Countless exotic flowers and herbs decorated the place. A small spring flowed gently, and the clouds rolled in the sky. All kinds of beautiful scenery decorated the whole world with a poetic and picturesque scene. It was like a unique paradise in the world. Even if one only looked at it, the thought of not wanting to leave would emerge from the bottom of one's heart. The surrounding scenery was enchanting. Compared to the chaotic scene of the Black Fiend, this place was simply the opposite of the extremes. This world was called the Heavenly Fragrance World, and it was also a great thousand world. The flowers were fragrant and the scenery was beautiful, but they did not have the astonishing charm of a graceful young woman. In this world, it was as if there were only women. There was not a single man in sight. There were beautiful women everywhere. At first glance, it was simply too beautiful to behold. Even one's soul would be drawn out in an instant. In the depths of this world was an enormous valley. The scenery in the valley was extremely beautiful. It was like a dream. In the valley, a palace stood tall. The palace was called the Heavenly Fragrance Palace. In the hall, a beautiful middle-aged woman with a snow-white veil on her face quietly sat on the throne. She listened to the report of a young girl below and said thoughtfully, "With that old ghost's temperament, I'm afraid that something has happened. Otherwise, he wouldn't have rashly issued an edict like the demon-slaying order. Investigate. Immediately think of a way to find out the reason behind the monster execution order." Yes. When the woman below heard this, she immediately agreed and turned to leave. Xiang Xiang. After a moment of silence, the beautiful woman suddenly spoke. "Mother." As soon as those words were spoken, a woman dressed in a pink silk dress stood beside the middle-aged woman. Her face was covered with a white veil, and her body was exquisite from head to toe. Her figure was so beautiful that it was as if she was a work of art. She did not need to move. Just standing there, she was the most beautiful scenery. Tens of thousands of years ago, our Sky Incense Valley had to retreat to the Heavenly Fragrance World because of the battle between the Immortal Path and the Divine Path. We have been sealed for tens of thousands of years. The beautiful woman's eyes flickered. She continued, now that the annihilation tide is coming, everything will return to the source land. This is the omen of this great era. It is also the time for our sky incense valley to reappear. Mother, you are talking about the monster execution order this time. Xiang Xiang's eyes flickered with a wise light, as if she could see through people's hearts. Once the monster execution order is issued, the winds and clouds of the heavens will change. Based on the information obtained during this period of time, the Demon King Di Shirtian of the Demon Clan can build an unparalleled demon city without leaving a trace. He can protect billions of demon clans and can be called a hero of a generation. Once the monster execution order is issued, there will be a fierce battle between him and the Black Demon. However, he has great potential. If we can be on good terms with him, it may not be without benefits for us. Mother, you mean to let Xiang Xiang go to the Demon City and get in touch with the Demon King? Xiang Xiang said in a low voice. If possible, see if we can set up the heavenly fragrance in the Demon City. The beautiful woman's face revealed a meaningful expression. With the ruler's order, that old man, the Black Demon, will not be able to take action personally. It was not just the heavenly fragrance world. Almost at the same time that the monster execution order was issued, countless spies rushed to countless worlds and spread the news quickly to the heavens. Almost on the spot, who knew how many forces were shaken? For a moment, there was a vague feeling that a storm was coming. And Di Shirtian did not know about all this. He was immersed in the enlightenment of splitting the heavens and was in a mysterious state. In his mind, the imperial book of shocking the world was being integrated into the enlightenment of splitting the heavens and was being refined at an incredible speed. In a moment, the 10th and 11th volumes were easily deduced one after another. In his body, the 8th grade Black Lotus was growing at an unprecedented speed under the injection of the power of the world. The huge amount of royal true force was continuously filling the Black Lotus, spreading throughout the entire Black Lotus at a speed visible to the naked eye. In an instant, it might be 10,000 years. In the Black Lotus, it was almost inconceivable that it was completely filled with the pure and vast imperial true force. Kacha. In the rank 8 Black Lotus, the enormous power of desire was immediately destroyed and surged out. Under a mysterious force, it turned into the most wonderful enlightenment and quickly rushed into the soul. The vast power of desire was quickly integrated into the true force. Everything was constantly transforming under the influence of a mysterious force. In the 8th demon vein, countless divine lights were being refined and sent into the divine eye. The imperial true acupoints were being opened. As for Di Shirtian, he was immersed in this transformation and constantly absorbed the enlightenment from splitting the heavens. In an instant, his understanding of the Emperor's path and the path of desire became deeper. After a long time, he did not know how much time had passed. His entire mind naturally woke up from that wondrous state. The moment he woke up, the situation in his body was instantly reflected in his mind like a tidal wave. Demon Core 9 Transformations, Rank 9 Black Lotus, controlling the power of touch. In his body, he could clearly see that the 8th demon vein had been completely opened and 9 imperial true acupoints had been formed. In the 9th demon vein, 1/3 of it had been opened and 3 true acupoints had been formed. In other words, there were a total of 75 imperial true acupoints in his body. Looking at the Demon Palace, the rank 8 Black Lotus had transformed into a rank 9 Black Lotus. In the rank 9 Black Lotus, new power of desire and power of will were continuously pouring in. The space in the rank 9 Black Lotus had expanded by 10 times. At this moment, the Imperial True Force still occupied only 1/10 of the space. Splitting the heavens is an opportunity. By opening up the inner world, anyone below the heavenly demon realm will have the opportunity to instantly raise their cultivation by 1 level. Di Shirtian slowly exhaled and opened his eyes. His gaze was unusually deep. Demon Core 9 Transformations, the peak of the great ancient demon realm. The current me has the strength to truly compete with the experts of the heavens for the many treasures in the myriad tribulations cave abode. Although he had long known that when opening up the inner world, using the power contained in the world seed, his strength would instantly increase by one level. However, this increase was not as joyful as he had imagined. Instead, it brought with it a sense of melancholy. With a thought, everything in the divine eye instantly appeared in his mind. In the divine eye, an inner world of 3,000 feet in size appeared. This inner world was divided into two layers. One layer was above ground and the other was below ground. The upper layer was a piece of barren land. The land was pitch black, and not a single blade of grass grew. It gave off a deathly aura. And in the middle of this heaven and earth, a pitch-black, strange octagonal altar stood tall. On the altar, mysterious black talismans appeared. Each of these talismans seemed to be able to communicate with a mysterious power. There were a total of 123,600 talismans, and they were distributed on the altar in a strange way. It made the altar look exceptionally strange. It was as if it could instantly devour a person's soul. It was like a demon god hiding in the darkness. Seeing this sacrificial altar, Sakra's heart couldn't help but beat rapidly. Everything about the sacrificial altar was instantly reflected in his mind. In his eyes, a purple-gold radiance almost instantly burst out. Even with his willpower, he could not help but become excited and almost could not hold it in. Ha ha! He could not help but laugh in his heart. A divine object is indeed born. I did not expect that my Imperial Shock Book would condense such a divine object in my inner world. With it, I don't have to worry about not being able to surpass those so-called geniuses and enter the realm of peerless expert. Immediately, countless thoughts and schemes appeared in Shirtian's mind. However, after his excitement, he regained his composure and forcefully suppressed his excitement. He looked down again. Below was the infernal prison. The infernal prison had not changed much, but it had strangely shrunk to the original 3,000 feet. The dragon body of Dark was completely lying in the holy river of Huang Quan. It seemed to have fallen into a deep sleep. Its body had shrunk from its original size of several thousand feet to less than 100 feet. Compared to before, it was now a small snake. Madman D, today, I've suffered a great loss. Has the inner world been opened? If not, my sacrifice this time would have been completely wasted. Dark's aura was unusually weak. It seemed to have sensed Shirtian's arrival. It hid its body in the Huang Quan, raised its head, opened its eyelids, and muttered weakly. To be continued. If you want to know what happens next, please go to www.chidian.com. I support the author. I support the original reading. Chapter 683. Inner Heaven and Earth, Heavenly Punishment. Seeing that Dark had become so weak after sacrificing his own spirit, he had almost been annihilated. Even so, he was still reduced to such a state. With his current strength, he might not even be able to defeat a demon king. Seeing that it had actually paid such a huge price for him, it would be a lie to say that he was not moved. Waves of warmth unceasingly surged in his heart. However, he did not personally express this gratitude. Only a trace of unswerving determination appeared in his eyes as he asked, "How can I recover?" After the sacred sacrifice, Underworld was already on the brink of death. Its power was indeed strong, but the price for power was also extremely terrifying. In its current situation, it would probably fall into a deep sleep after a few words. "Spirit, I need a large amount of spirit power." "Lunatic D, you have to absorb more souls in the future. I've really made a big deal this time. I'm an artifact spirit, so only a large amount of spirit power can help me recover. Whether or not I can wake up as soon as possible depends on you." Underworld looked at Shirtian with a pitiful and expectant gaze. "Don't worry." Sakra didn't make any guarantees. He only lightly spat out 2 words, his voice carrying a kind of firm charm. Ming had followed Chen Shi for so long, so she naturally understood Chen Shi's temperament. So, she instantly felt at ease when she heard this, and she cried out, "Hee, then I can rest at ease. However, Madman D, you killed that kid, Black Pupil, just now. With his background, he'll probably offend terrifying existences. It will bring a considerable crisis to the entire monster race in the heavens. Perhaps there will be a rain of blood. You have to be prepared." A dangerous light flashed in its eyes. From the strange black talisman that flew out of Black Pupil's body at the last moment, it had already guessed that there must be a peerless expert behind Black Pupil. Perhaps Black Pupil's matter would enrage that terrifying existence. Once that happened, there would be countless rain of blood in the heavens. A peerless expert was an existence that had shocked the ages. There were many things that didn't need to be done personally. Even if he just revealed a little bit of information, there would naturally be countless people helping him. That kind of influence was definitely not something that ordinary people could imagine. A casual sentence from him could stir up a storm. "Don't worry, I'm prepared." Di Shirtian's eyes were full of depth as he said, "When I killed He Tong and used the Emperor's seal, I sent a strand of divine thought out of the myriad tribulation cave abode and into the myriad demon city through the crack. The plan to return to the sect must have begun. As long as the plan went smoothly, no matter how angry the expert behind He Tong was, he would not be able to do much. Furthermore, this is a good opportunity to take a closer look at how many of the people in this world are our enemies, and how many are those who can tolerate the rise of our demon clan." Wisps of wisdom flashed continuously in his eyes. The return to ancestry plan has begun. A glimmer of light suddenly flashed in Dark's tired dragon eyes, but it began to dissipate in the blink of an eye. He said, "Don't be careless. There are too many secrets hidden in this world, and I don't know how many peerless experts are hiding. However, judging from the situation, they seem to be restrained by something. They have scruples and can't take action personally. Otherwise, the world wouldn't be like this." "Humph." Di Shirtian snorted slightly and said, "Don't be afraid. I've already ordered that if any force dares to stop the return to ancestry plan, Shi will order the bloody massacre general to take Shin Gongbao out for a walk." "Take Shin Gongbao out for a walk?" Dark was stunned for a moment, then he revealed a playful smile, as if he was full of expectations. His eyelids sank and he closed his eyes. His entire body sank into Huang Quan, and he fell into a deep sleep in Huang Quan. In the air, wisps of divine soul power continuously fell into his body. He quietly looked at Dark's sleeping figure. Without him nagging in his mind, he couldn't help but feel a little unused to it. After a long while, he said, "Don't worry, it won't be long before I wake you up again." After a pause, he said to himself, "The 9 transformations of the demon core, the peak of the ancient great demon. Today, I will use this body to fight for a new world. When the return to ancestry plan begins, we'll see who's an enemy and who's a friend. If it's an enemy, I'll kill him. If it's a friend, I'll also treat him with good wine." Slowly exhaling, he opened his eyes and clenched his fists tightly. He could feel the royal true force in his demon veins surging like a tide. A powerful force was being emitted from every inch of his flesh and blood, causing his heart to be filled with a strong sense of self-confidence. Strength, this is strength. He could clearly feel that he could punch a hole in the sky with a single punch. With strength, one would have confidence. Without strength, everything would be empty. Although he was only at the 9 transformations of the demon core, if he put on the Huangji mask, he would immediately possess the strength of an ancient great demon saint. At this moment, there was no difference between him and the outstanding disciples that the major factions had spent countless efforts to nurture. He naturally withdrew the majestic strength around him. His figure flashed, and he appeared in the void. He looked around, and the smell of blood in the air seemed to have faded a lot. Even the roars of the fierce beasts seemed a little lonely. He couldn't help but frown slightly. One of the goals of the myriad calamity ancestor was to create a massacre and obtain large amounts of flesh and blood. This place should be filled with killing. However, with the intelligence of the all-heavens cultivators, this kind of small trick won't fool them. After a while, they'll definitely realize it. Even if it's for various treasures, they'll consciously restrain themselves. There must be some unforeseen event that attracted most of the cultivators here. Using all kinds of treasures to attract the all-heavens cultivators to fight the fierce beasts without regard for their own lives, and even kill each other. Although this was a powerful move that targeted the weakness of human nature, it was definitely not the most powerful move of the myriad calamity ancestor. Otherwise, if the all-heavens cultivators worked together, no matter how many fierce beasts there were, they would all be wiped out one by one. There must be an even more terrifying killing plot. He secretly scanned his surroundings and waved his hand to keep the primordial gold essence and various 10,000-year-old iron trees into his inner world. The inner world had a vast area of 30,000 feet in circumference. Even if a huge mountain was thrown into it, it would still be able to contain it. Innate ability, 10,000-mile tracking. Innate ability, clairaudience. Innate ability, clairvoyance. With a thought, the 3 types of innate divine abilities that were derived from the power of desire were instantly unleashed. Immediately, his nose twitched slightly, and his ears trembled continuously. A strange divine light appeared in his eyes. In an instant, without any hesitation, he turned around and walked towards the east. As he walked, he unceremoniously moved all the precious materials that he came across into his inner world. All kinds of precious metal attribute materials could be seen everywhere, like stones on the roadside. Everywhere he passed, the sky was 3 feet higher. At this time, in the Thousand Demon City, in the Jade Pool, she was wearing a phoenix robe. Her lower abdomen was already showing a distinct feature. Gently caressing it, a motherly radiance appeared on his face from time to time. He sat upright on the phoenix throne. Beside him, Qing Xia followed with a heroic look. Around them, the green phoenix swordsmen stood tall. Behind them, beautiful palace maids held up umbrellas. On the umbrellas, dragons and phoenixes were engraved. The surroundings were decorated with palace lanterns, and a dignified and noble aura naturally flowed out. And in front of him, Huang Quan, Tian Can's 2 elders, who, and even the commanders of the 4 major armies, as well as important officials in the myriad demon city, all stood respectfully in front of His Highness. His Majesty has ordered that the plan of returning to the sect shall be carried out immediately. She glanced over quietly. A motherly temperament appeared on her body. Naturally, there was a kind of graceful and noble aura that made Tian Can's 2 elders, Huang Quan and Tian Can, below, not dare to look at her for too long. Haha, that's great. His Majesty the Demon Emperor has finally ordered to start the plan of returning to the sect. I, Lao He, have waited for this day for too long. Black Ape King Yuan Zhan opened his big mouth and laughed. He stretched out his hand and slapped his thigh. His eyes lit up as he shouted, "This time, if we gather all the scattered brothers of the demon clan in the heavens, it will definitely be huge. At that time, our numbers will increase greatly. Let's see which force dares to look down on us. Once the plan of returning to the sect is completed, our demon clan will definitely usher in a prosperous era that has never been seen since ancient times." Whose hand that was stroking his beard couldn't help but pull out a few strands. However, he didn't feel any pain as he spoke excitedly. For this plan of returning to the sect, His Majesty has already given full authority to Mr. Dream before he left. From now on, all the forces of the Demon City will be under Mr. Dream's command. After she was quiet for a while, she nodded slightly to King Dream Demon, who was standing at the side, and said, "Pass on His Majesty's decree." King Dream Demon, Mengshi will be appointed as the military advisor of the demon city. You will receive a salary of 7,000 demon coins per month. This is the seal. As soon as he finished speaking, a palm-sized seal appeared in his hand and flew to King Dream Demon out of thin air. When Silverhair heard this, a trace of respect appeared in his eyes that were full of vicissitudes of life. He respectfully stretched out his hands and held the seal in front of him in his hands. He replied, Mengshi respectfully obeys the order of the Demon Emperor. Regarding this, the group of demon officials in the hall didn't show any surprise. Instead, a look of conviction appeared on their faces. It seemed that they had already known this news long ago, or it seemed that they had been subdued by King Dream Demon before this. In short, no one had the slightest intention of objection. Even who had always been the think tank, didn't have any grudges. The silver-haired palm print immediately entered into its own duties. With a wave of his hand, his bearing was extraordinary. He said in a deep voice, the plan of returning to the sect is officially launched. Release the projection of the Divine Gate to explore the space imprint where the heavens and realms are located. Release the projection of the Divine Gate to connect the heavens and realms. Whoever blocks the projection of the Divine Gate can mobilize the blood-killing guards to accompany them. If they repeatedly block, His Majesty has ordered that the blood-killing guards can be mobilized to bring Shen Gongbao there. Shen Gongbao. Almost all the demon generals present couldn't help but shrink their necks, feeling that there was a cold air circulating in the hall. To be continued. If you want to know what will happen, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author, support the original reading. Chapter 684. Take Shen Gongbao out for a walk? Even though everyone here was quite courageous, they still felt a chill run down their spines. Who was Shen Gongbao? Everyone here knew very well who he was. He was the greatest jinx in the world, the god of misfortune. He was an extremely evil guy. Previously, Di Shirtian plotted against Shen Gongbao and trapped him in the heavenly prison. He used all kinds of restrictions and seals, and even specially sent the bloody massacre general to guard outside the prison door. They watched him closely. However, there was still no good way at the moment. They could only temporarily detain him in the heavenly prison and lock him up first. After hearing this, the Black Ape King Yuanzhan did not believe it. He ran to Chen Shi and asked for a decree, saying that he wanted to enter the heavenly prison to persuade Shen Gongbao to surrender to the demon city. Unexpectedly, he ran out in just a moment. This time, he was completely unlucky. After coming out of the heavenly prison, he fell more than 10 times in just 100 feet. The 9 heavens and 10 earths god-slaying demon-slaying seal inexplicably suddenly struck this unlucky child with a few bolts of lightning. He was almost struck to death. After this lesson, almost instantly, Shen Gongbao's strangeness spread completely. No one dared to go to the heavenly prison to provoke this jinx. Even saying a word would make one feel a chill down their spine. No one knew what kind of bad luck they would encounter once they were entangled with misfortune. However, at this moment, when they heard this, their eyes lit up. TSK, if Shen Gongbao was dragged to other worlds for a walk, whoever touched him would be courting death. After 2 rounds, even the ancient giants would directly take a detour. This was a great killing weapon. Let's start now. Silverhair smiled faintly and directly ordered. Immediately they responded and left. They began to communicate with the heavenly gate, releasing projections of the heavenly gate. They quickly collected them and prepared to be projected to other worlds. The return to ancestral plan. This was a grand plan that had emerged in Di Shirtian's mind the moment he created the demon city in the demon realm. He knew that after the demon clan was dispersed in the primordial age, most of the demon clan were scattered throughout the heavens and realms. The demon clan in the world did not only exist in the purple gold mainland and the demon realm. Almost every world had a large number of demon clans. Moreover, almost all of them lived at the lowest level and were at the mercy of others. It was unknown how many of the demons born of nature had died innocently in the past tens of thousands of years. It was fine if he didn't have the strength, but now, since he had built the 1,000-demon city, an unparalleled ancient city that could accommodate tens of billions of demons, and he was already called the Demon Emperor, as the Demon Emperor, no matter what, the demons scattered in the heavens were his own people. Rescuing them from the abyss of suffering was also one of his responsibilities. Moreover, one chopstick could be easily broken, but if it were 10 chopsticks, it would be quite difficult to break it. The scattered demon clans in the heavens and realms were a dish that could be casually eaten by others. However, if all the scattered demon clans were summoned and gathered, it would be a vast force that could change the world. How many demon clans were scattered in the heavens and realms? In total, there were probably no less than hundreds of millions or even billions, or even more. Such a force, when gathered, would grow in the future. It would be billions of demon kings, billions of great demons, and even billions of demon saints. Therefore, no matter what, even if it was for the inheritance of the demon clan, the plan of returning to the demon clan was imperative. The matter of Black Pupil was just bringing forward the plan of returning to the demon clan. With this move, not only could it make billions of demon clans officially return to the demon clan, but it could also use the simplest and most direct method to roughly test which worlds were enemies and which were friends. The plan of returning to the demon clan in the demon clan was not deliberately concealed. The large-scale operation instantly attracted the attention of countless ears in the city. Immediately, countless pieces of news spread out from the city. In the shortest time possible, pieces of information appeared in front of the various major forces. In a greater thousand realm where countless bolts of lightning recklessly appeared in the sky most of the time, the Thunder God realm. Within a mysterious palace, a middle-aged man with a lightning imprint between his brows was looking at 2 pieces of information with interest. One was the demon punishing order that had come from the Black Fiend realm, and the other was the all demons return to their ancestral plan that had come from the 1,000-demon city. Both of them, whether it was the demon slaying order or the plan of returning all demons to their demon clan, did not have the slightest trace of ink. They were directly announced in the form of an open conspiracy. This was a brazen move of testing. This was the most direct kind of question: are you an enemy? Or a friend? A little interesting? In the past, my Thunder Divine clan had a friendly relationship with the Demon clan. However, today, after so many years of the Demon clan's decline, there was actually such an interesting Demon Emperor. This is worth looking forward to. Let's see if the Demon clan that dominated the ancient times can once again stand on the stage of the upcoming Great Era. The mysterious middle-aged man muttered to himself with interest. Suddenly, he ordered, "Pass down the order. If anyone from the Demon clan comes, they can enter and leave as they wish. If they want to take away the Demon clan in the inner realm, they cannot be stopped." And in a greater thousand world where humans lived, the origin returning realm. In the inner realm, the human cultivators were the leaders. Among them, the origin returning sect was the most powerful and had the deepest foundation. They controlled the entire world. They had supreme majesty. An order came out: if any demon clan dares to enter the inner realm, kill without mercy. The myriad beast realm. In the inner realm, all kinds of enslaved demon beasts could be seen everywhere. A large number of demon beasts were constantly being sold. The number was so large that it was difficult to estimate. The ruler of this world was the 10,000 Beasts sect. In the sect, a cold order came out: any demon clan that enters the inner realm will be detained and turned into demon beasts. Serve as a demon pet. In the command, there was more of a cold-blooded cruelty. Sky Moon realm, Tranquil realm, Sky Fire realm, and so on. After receiving all kinds of information, different orders were issued in many worlds. Some responded to the demon-slaying order, some seemed to want to do the demon clan a favor, and some did not help either side. All kinds of situations were played out. Imperceptibly, some of the attitudes and even inclinations of the various worlds were displayed. A lot of information could be obtained from one or two actions. At this moment, although de Chertion knew that the returning sect plan had already begun, he was still heading east at a leisurely pace. As he moved forward, he crazily plundered all kinds of treasures along the way like a bandit entering a village and put them into his inner world. Even if he knew that the plan was being carried out, he was not anxious at all. As he hurried along, he thought to himself, "This time, I should be able to see some friends and foes. Now that I can't leave the myriad tribulation cave abode, I can't get the information immediately. However, with Silverhair's intelligence, he will definitely gain something. Once I confirm those who can be my allies, I should get closer to them." Since the decline of the demon clan, they had been surrounded by enemies. Hundreds of races had avoided the world and sealed their realms. The demon clan was in an even more miserable situation. They were the stepping stones of the cultivators' cultivation. For tens of thousands of years, they had been declining constantly, and their strength had fallen continuously. As a result, hundreds of races had hidden themselves from the world and no longer had the power to suppress the development of the human clan. The demon clan did not have any backing at all, which led to their decline. Now, the situation might not be optimistic. After all, the human clan was the main character of the world. It had lasted from the ancient times to the present. It should be known that from the ancient times to the present, there was an era when the divine path was rampant. The foundation of the human clan was definitely not to be underestimated. The demon clan is still too weak. I need to find allies. Looking up at the void, he sighed. Striding forward, he quickly crossed a large area. In his mind, the scene that he had seen with the 1,000 miles eye connection appeared. He immersed his mind in it. There is actually a group of ancient tombs in the metal absolute domain. Looking at the number of tombs, there are no less than 10,000 of them. Did that old man Wan Jie move most of the tombs in the land of chaos into this absolute domain? De Chertion thought to himself. Earlier, when he had scanned the east with the 1,000 miles eye, he had found a group of tombs in front of him. Moreover, there were more than 10,000 of them gathered together, giving off a strange aura. At first glance, there was an indescribable sense of awe. Moreover, there was a large group of young cultivators gathered outside the tombs. It was obvious that most of the cultivators in the area had already made their way to the strange graveyard. Creating a strange graveyard in this place gave off a strange feeling. Given Wan Jie Ancestor's status, it was impossible that he had nothing better to do than to casually make some tombs for fun. There was definitely a secret that no one knew about here. Perhaps this was a trap that he had set up to kill him. It was even possible that these tombs were really taken from the land of chaos. Perhaps the tombs contained the inheritance and all kinds of precious treasures that the original owner had hidden inside. There were all kinds of possibilities, and they would definitely attract the attention of countless cultivators. He quickly approached the group of tombs. With his speed, it didn't take him too long to reach the edge of the tombs. He could see the crowd of cultivators gathered around him. With a casual glance, he could see that there were no less than 1,000,000 cultivators gathered here. It was truly extraordinarily huge. He wasn't in a hurry to approach. He put on the emperor mask to cover his face. Discussions could be heard around him. Wan Jie Ancestor is really a fierce god from the ancient times. He actually took almost half of the tombs in the land of chaos here. This method is too shocking. The owners of those tombs weren't unknown figures. There might be some kind of inheritance in every tomb. There might be a supreme treasure left behind by the original owner. After the inheritance, a cultivator could instantly reach an unimaginable realm. There is proof. Legend has it that when the land of chaos opened last time, a sky immortal entered an ancient tomb and obtained the inheritance. After he came out, His cultivation base instantly reached the immortal Emperor realm. His battle strength was unparalleled. Ancient tombs are too mysterious. It's said that there are countless dangers inside. If you're not careful, you can die inside. All kinds of discussions entered D. Shirtian's ears. To be continued. If you want to know what will happen next, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author, support the original reading. Chapter 685. As expected, these are ancient tombs that originally existed in the land of chaos. To think that the ancestor of myriad calamity would forcibly bring them to the 5 great desolation domains. What is he trying to do? Is it just to give the cultivators of the heavens a great opportunity? No, that's impossible. There must be some scheme that I don't know about. D. Shirtian listened carefully and confirmed his guess. These were indeed the ancient tombs that existed in the land of chaos. Because of an accident, the ancient tombs were built by the experts who couldn't continue to live. In the ancient tombs, there were the inheritances left behind by the fallen experts, as well as all kinds of powerful treasures, countless pills, and so on. Every ancient tomb represented endless wealth and treasures. However, he instinctively sensed the smell of a scheme. To bring thousands of ancient tombs together to form a burial mound, the ancestor of myriad calamity definitely wouldn't be kind enough to give an opportunity to an outsider. There must be a deep scheme behind this. The ferocious beasts and the embryos of the heavens and earth outside are just a small part of the scheme. The real big picture should be here. D. Shirtian thought to himself, and a trace of certainty gradually appeared in his eyes. However, it was hard to guess what the ancestor of myriad calamity was scheming with the things that he knew. He could only secretly be vigilant in his heart. Standing far away from the burial mound, he didn't immediately approach. He stayed away from the range of the millions of cultivators and quietly observed the development of the situation. The ancient tomb inheritance was the temptation. No matter how firm one's will was, one would be tempted. At this moment, after observing for a long time, finally, some young elites couldn't bear it and started to make a move. The first to move was a young man wearing a gray cloak on his head and carrying 2 crescent blades on his back. There seemed to be 2 sharp daggers on his waist. His figure flashed, and he rushed toward an ancient tomb that was shrouded in illusions and fog. The fog and illusions were none other than the restriction outside the ancient tomb. The restriction seemed to have sensed that someone was intruding. Suddenly, it violently rolled, and countless terrifying illusions constantly appeared. 3 pairs of terrifying ferocious beasts, huge moon-gazing rhinoceroses, ferocious and savage wolves, ferocious tigers, divine dragons, all of them appeared, carrying a fierce aura as they pounced forward. The aura that was rushing towards them was enough to scare them out of their wit. However, that young man was quite capable as well. His figure flashed, and his entire body strangely turned into an illusory shadow, directly passing through the numerous phantoms. The restrictions in the surroundings didn't obstruct him in the slightest. He turned into a shadow and disappeared into the ancient tomb. My goodness, that's the Shadow Clan of the 100 Clans. They're one of the strongest clans in the 100 Clans. The members of the Shadow Clan are born with the terrifying ability to transform themselves into shadows. Once they transform into shadows, they're almost immune to all kinds of attack. It's almost impossible for physical attacks to hurt them. He could easily pass through all kinds of dangerous places. Even some forbidding spells could be easily passed through. It was said that if one reached the level of a peerless expert, any forbidding spells in the world would be nothing in their eyes. I didn't expect to be able to witness it with my own eyes today. I recognize that Shadow Clan member. He's just an ordinary member of the Shadow Clan who isn't very talented. I heard his name is Ingfan, and he only has the strength of an immortal king. He actually dares to come to the Bedlam lands, enter the Myriad Tribulation Cavern, and be the first one to rush into the ancient tomb. This courage is extraordinary. I'm afraid he's a person with great perseverance. Let's let this little guy test the waters of the ancient tomb first. Let's see if it's really the legendary ancient tomb with the inheritance. If he wants to be the first, let him test it out for us. There are thousands of ancient tombs here. If we can get it, I'm afraid we can create thousands of young talents in an instant. We'll be like geniuses. Many people in the surroundings recognized the identity of the Shadow Clan member who suddenly rushed out. They were no longer in a hurry to rush into the ancient tomb. They were more than happy to see someone rushing to test the waters. After all, there wasn't only one ancient tomb here, but thousands of them. There was a lot of room to choose. For a moment there was a kind of quiet charm surrounding the tomb. Tion also stared unblinkingly at the ancient tomb that was shrouded in all kinds of illusions. He could see that those illusions were extremely tyrannical. It was likely that they weren't aimed at the physical body, but at the soul and the mind. This kind of restriction was even more strange and terrifying. And suddenly, Tion turned his head and swept his gaze to the left. His eyes under the mask carried a hint of intimidating might. Naturally, it exuded a terrifying pressure. Don't misunderstand. I have no ill intentions. I'm Tu Xingsuan of the Force Clan. On the left, a 1.7-meter tall fatty with a rosy complexion was standing. His fat jiggled, and his face was fair and clean. The trace of a smile on his lips gave people a kind feeling, as if they had an inexplicable good impression of him. He chuckled. Seeing Tion's sharp gaze, he waved his hand and said loudly. Tion didn't say anything. Just now, he was the one who kept coming closer. You're wearing a purple gold mask, and with the invisible Emperor's aura, if I'm not wrong, you must be the current Demon King of the Demon Clan. Tu Xingsuan walked towards Tion and said with a smile, I wonder if I can ask the Demon King for a drink. His small eyes rolled around and fell on the god of wine gourd in Tion's hand. His eyes lit up. Seeing the little fatty's throat constantly squirming as he swallowed his saliva, Sakura smiled indifferently. He casually took out a white jade gourd filled with monkey wine from his body and threw it at him. The fatty hurriedly grabbed the gourd in his hand, as if he had found a treasure. He opened the gourd and carefully poured a mouthful of the spiritual wine into his mouth. As the spiritual wine flowed down his throat, all the pores on his body seemed to open in an instant. He revealed an intoxicated expression and sighed, Good wine, 100-year-old monkey wine. TSK, this isn't something that can be tasted casually. His expression was full of reminiscence. Tu Xingsuan? Tion quickly scanned him and said meaningfully, Since you know who I am and dare to come close, I'm afraid you don't just want to ask for a drink from me. Asking for wine was just incidental. He wouldn't believe that he didn't have other motives for coming over. I wonder what the Demon King thinks of the ancient tomb in front of us? Light flashed in the fatty's small eyes from time to time. He chuckled and said, Do you intend to take a look? Obviously, he was also quite interested in the ancient tomb. It was no wonder that there were many inheritances in the ancient tomb. It was a great temptation to anyone. You mean that we should join forces? Tion's heart tensed up. Little Fatty chuckled as he waved his thick arms and said, Legend has it that every ancient tomb contains countless seals and traps. Once one falls into them, no matter how powerful one is, it will be extremely dangerous. A shrewd look appeared on his face and he smiled. If we join forces, although we will get a share of the rewards, it is nothing compared to our lives. I wonder if the Demon King is interested. After he finished speaking, he looked at Tion with sincerity in his small eyes. If there are any rewards in the ancient tomb, how do we split them? Tion said with interest. Furthermore, he directly pointed out the most crucial point. How to split the treasures was the key to joining forces. In front of benefits, even the closest friends would fight for it. He was slightly moved by the fatty's suggestion. After all, the ancient tomb was too mysterious. If he could have one or two companions, it would be more effective to deal with it. As soon as the little fatty heard it, he could tell from Sakra's tone that he was obviously moved. His eyes lit up and he hurriedly said, "In the ancient tomb, as long as there's any harvest, it will be distributed uniformly. Those who can use it can choose leisurely. If there's an inherited cultivation method, after you get it, you can re-record the cultivation method. Everyone gets one and distribute it in turn. What do you think? Very fair." Tion pondered for a while and nodded. "All right, I will call my sister over." The fatty heard it and obviously knew that it was a sign of agreement. He was overjoyed. He turned around and quickly left in the direction he came from. He has a sister, Tion pondered. In the past, before Ming went into hibernation, he had told him some things about the 100 ancient clans. The Li clan was one of the top clans in the list. Moreover, every one of them was born with divine strength. Even a newborn baby could send a large rock flying with a slap of its hand. The most peculiar thing was that the Li clan was very close to the earth. As long as they stepped on the earth, their strength would be endless. In the Li clan, their hearts were different from the ordinary clans. Their hearts were called the heart of the earth. It was because of this heart that they could obtain the power of the earth. They were also called the sons of the earth. What Sakra cared about the most was that when the Li clan obtained the power of the earth, they also inherited the simplicity of the earth. Although they had powerful divine power, they didn't like to invade and go to war. As long as others didn't provoke them, they would be like the ordinary villagers in the mountain village, simple and unadorned. Once they treated you as a friend, you would never betray them. It could be said that they were the best allies. However, if they were angered, their anger would not be a joke. Once they took action, the whole clan would attack. Think about it, what would happen if a group of monsters with innate divine strength came to the door? Therefore, in this world, no one would easily provoke this clan. In the distance, the fatty ran in front of a girl who was in her late teens. She was wearing a green robe and had the aura of the earth that contained all things. To be continued. If you want to know what happened next, please go to www.chidian.com. I support the author, I support the original reading. Chapter 686. Although the young girl did not appear to be very beautiful and was only a delicate and pretty girl from a humble family, when she stood there, it was as if her entire body had fused together with the earth. That gentleness and the tolerance of the earth were all present on her body. Faintly, she was the embodiment of the entire earth. Compared to those women who were so beautiful that they were otherworldly, she gave off a sense of closeness and intimacy. "Brother, you really went to see the Demon King?" The girl saw the little fatty running over and smiled gently. She asked softly. However, from her tone, it was a kind of affirmation. "Haha, little sister, nothing can be hidden from your eyes." The little fatty looked at the girl's clear eyes and laughed while scratching his head, saying, "Brother did go to see the Demon King just now. Then what do you think of the Demon King?" A look of interest appeared in the girl's eyes and she said softly, "It is said that in the past, the demon race in the heavens was like a sheet of loose sand and was almost a stepping stone for the cultivators in the heavens. However, after his appearance, he was able to silently build an unparalleled ancient city like the Demon City. He recruited millions of demon race in the purple gold continent and broke into the demon world to stop the fierce demon god army from the demon god continent. From what he has done in the past, he can be considered a hero with great ambition. Brother, you want a rope in the demon race." The girl's clear eyes seemed to be able to see through people's hearts. She looked at the little fatty and said calmly, "Yes." The little fatty did not laugh and instead said with a look of seriousness, "The elders have said that the upcoming calamity will be unimaginable in the past. It will be the most glorious era and the immeasurable calamity. All living things in the world will be in the calamity. In the calamity, even the 100 races will be in danger of being overturned. It is almost impossible to be outside. The only way is to unite all the forces that can be united. Mutual alliance. Only then can we face the terrifying calamity in the future. Vaguely, some of the powerful beings in the world were also constantly deducing the heavenly secret. They had already sensed the arrival of the immeasurable calamity. As for the demon clan, they were once on good terms with our clan during the Antiquity Age. In my opinion, with the demon clan's foundation of dominating the myriad worlds during the Antiquity Age, even if they are in decline now, it is not impossible for them to rise again. And once it rose, it would definitely become one of the most tyrannical forces in the world. The number of demons is too great. Little Fatty's small eyes were filled with shrewdness. He deduced all sorts of things in his heart. You have to choose the right time to give a gift. Sending gifts to others when they were on the rise was called icing on the cake. Sending gifts when they were on the decline was called sending charcoal in snowy weather. The same gift given at a different time would have a completely different effect. The girl saw the look in her brother's eyes. How could she not know what he was planning? If the demon race could rise smoothly, then he would help them now. In the future, he might be able to find a reliable ally for the demon race. And now, he was in contact with Chertion. It was obvious that he was observing him from a close distance. As the demon emperor, Chertion could be said to be the leader of the demon race in name. It was easy to see what kind of demon emperor there was, and whether the demon race would truly have the opportunity to rise under his leadership. Little sister, your eyes can see fragments of the future. You have to be diligent in this matter. The little fatty looked at the young girl with an expectant expression. The girl smiled and shook her head. Her eyes were filled with curiosity. She said, "Brother, let's not let the demon emperor wait. Let's go over first. I also want to see this famous demon emperor with my own eyes." There were probably only a few people in the myriad worlds who were not curious about Chertion. After all, his rise was filled with a mysterious charm. Although the two siblings did not look alike on the outside, they were actually related by blood. The brother was Tu Xingxuan, and the sister was Tu Ling. Speaking of this earth fairy, the most amazing thing about her was her eyes. It was as if she was born with a divine ability. When she looked at it, scenes of the future would be reflected in her mind. Moreover, those scenes could be seen. Her eyes could be said to be born with divine eyes. She was known as the prophet's eyes. Her meaning was very obvious. I can know about the future first. She was known as the prophet's eyes. His talent was even more outstanding. She was even stronger than Tu Xingxuan. She was very close to the earth. In a short period of time, she was nurtured by the clan. Now, she was an Emperor Realm expert of the immortal Emperor Realm. Although she had a weak body, the divine power contained in it was terrifying. She could turn a mountain into dust with just a finger. After the conversation, the two siblings did not stop and rushed to Chertion's location. Both of them met and greeted each other. After the introduction, Chertion looked at Tu Ling. His eyes flashed with a strange light. He thought to himself, there are indeed many geniuses in the world. After Tu Ling swept a glance at him, a trace of bewilderment flashed in her clear eyes. There was a storm in her heart. Wise, can't my prophet's eyes see his future? The moment she glanced at Chertion, she had already used her prophet's eyes to see what his future would be like. Would he lead the demon clan to rise, or would he fall halfway? However, he didn't expect that what he saw was only a hazy fog that completely covered his future. She could not see what kind of future was hidden behind the fog. A strange light appeared in Xiao Chen's eyes. His originally calm heart was suddenly filled with curiosity. Interesting. These two siblings might be worth befriending. Chertion thought to himself. He did not dislike the two of them. Instead, he felt quite close to them. There was no lack of people who could get close to them. Boom, 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 Boom. At this moment, a loud boom suddenly sounded. It immediately attracted the attention of all the surrounding cultivators. They all looked in the direction of the sound. Countless people's eyes lit up. The place where the sound came from was the ancient tomb that Ing Fan had entered. The restriction around the ancient tomb was constantly fluctuating violently. The restriction that was full of illusions was shattered on the spot. Swoosh! An illusory figure instantly shuttled out of the ancient tomb. A powerful pressure was suddenly emitted from his body. The pressure caused the surrounding space to involuntarily cave in and distort. After pausing in the air for a moment, his body flashed and he actually used shadow evasion. However, that pause was sufficient for everyone to clearly see that the figure that had pressed down was Ing Fan's figure, who had entered earlier. My goodness, is that Ing Fan? What a strong pressure. That pressure is at least at the Emperor realm. When Ing Fan entered, he was only at the Immortal King realm. There was an Immortal Duke realm in between. However, he directly surpassed the Immortal Duke realm and became a Celestial Emperor. He must have obtained the inheritance of the owner of the ancient tomb. Otherwise, it would be impossible for him to enter the Emperor realm so easily. These ancient tombs are indeed the ancient tombs in the land of chaos. They contain ancient inheritance and a large number of treasures. Haha, these ancient tombs are indeed full of miracles. This was an unparalleled opportunity. If an immortal king can become a celestial emperor in such a short time, I'm now at the Immortal Duke realm. If I obtain the inheritance, won't I be able to break through the bottleneck and become a celestial emperor? Haha, the ancient tomb is mine. Seeing the scene of Ing Fan breaking through to the next realm in an instant, the fire in the hearts of the millions of cultivators in the surroundings was completely ignited. Almost in an instant, many pairs of eyes stared at the ancient tombs. Bang! 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 Immediately, many Dharma treasures blasted toward the ancient tombs. When they collided with the restriction outside the ancient tomb, a terrifying boom was heard. Countless divine lights surged. The strange changes were densely packed, and the entire tomb was completely shrouded in thousands of restrictions in an instant. Various kinds of light intertwined, emitting a terrifying aura. Many Dharma treasures were crushed by the restrictions on the spot. Open for me! A lion clansman of the beast race held a huge golden beast claw in his hand. He brazenly rushed toward the restriction and smashed the beast claw forward. Under the claw, tragic cold light flashed continuously. The thousands of restrictions trembled violently under the attack. Whoosh! 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 Then, the restrictions suddenly changed. Thousands of sharp ice blades suddenly shot out from the restrictions. All the ice blades were like raindrops, instantly enveloping that beast clansman. They turned into a terrifying whirlwind. The whirlwind was full of ice blades. Only the sound of cutting could be heard. That huge lion clansman was cut into thousands of pieces on the spot. A strong smell of blood suddenly spread in the air. Hiss! This scene immediately poured a bucket of cold water on the heads of all the cultivators who were blinded by greed. They suddenly felt a chill in their hearts. They looked at the restriction that enveloped the entire tomb in horror. An immortal lord was easily cut into thousands of pieces just like that. Even his primordial spirit was crushed. This restriction was too terrifying. Azura's 7 slashes, wave slash. A young man exuding a strong murderous aura suddenly waved his hand, unsheathing the Azura saber on his back. He slashed the saber in a bloody arc and slashed at the restriction. The saber was like a wave. Waves after waves of force burst forth. Boundless sharpness burst forth in an instant, and the saber actually split open a crack in the restriction. It led into the tomb. The cold and arrogant Azura Jean Tian rushed into the crack, passed through the restriction, and entered the tomb. After he entered, the restriction that was split open immediately recovered. This is the ancient tomb screening the experts to see if they have the qualifications to enter the ancient tomb. Sakura glanced at it and secretly comprehended in his heart. When the restrictions on the outside of the tomb fused together, it was just like a qualification test. Those who couldn't pass naturally had no fate with the inheritance of the ancient tomb. "Brother D, let's go in too," little Fatty said excitedly. "Okay." Tion nodded and agreed. To be continued. If you want to know what happens next, please go to www.chidian.com. I support the author, I support the original reading. Chapter 687. There were thousands of ancient tombs in the tomb, but at the center of the tombs, there was a king's tomb that was much bigger than the others. Although the tombs looked messy, they formed the formation of the wolf worships the moon. Under this formation, the thousands of ancient tombs were connected and their restrictions were interconnected. Once an external force touched it, it would trigger a change in the entire formation, causing the restrictions around the ancient tombs to unite and interweave to form the thousands of restrictions that now covered the entire tomb. These restrictions were the most direct threshold. If you can break the restriction and enter the tomb, then you have the right to enter the tomb and obtain the inheritance. If you can't break the restriction, then I'm sorry. Not only do you not have the right, you might even be killed by the restriction. You would die on the spot. That king's tomb is the real center of the tomb. Tion quietly looked at the giant king's tomb in the center. Judging from the formation in the tomb, they would have to break through the other tombs to enter the king's tomb. Otherwise, they would not be able to enter the king's tomb. Because the king's tomb in the center was not real, but an extremely illusory illusion. It looked as if it did not exist at all. "Brother D." Tu Ling Er's clear eyes swept across the tomb, as if she could see through everything. She kept playing with a jade rui in her left hand, and with a touch of mystery, she said softly, "Just now, I did a little calculation, and I have a guess in my heart. If I'm not wrong, the thousands of ancient tombs in the tomb are not only the inheritance, but also the door to the king's tomb." Although it was just a guess, the confidence in his eyes made people want to believe him. What a big deal, to have thousands of ancient tombs as the door. Myriad Calamity Ancestor's generosity was not ordinary. Tion's heart also flashed with a touch of amazement. "Let's go. I'm afraid that the real treasures in the metal absolute domain are all in these ancient tombs," Tion said after thinking for a while. Then, without hesitation, he led the way to the restriction. Tu Xingxuan and his sister looked at each other and followed along excitedly. At that moment, the Azura race's heaven-battling Azura slashed open the restriction and rushed into the tomb. Some of the true peerless geniuses were not willing to be outdone and tried to break through. Since Brother Zhantian has set an example, it seems that we can't shrink back and not advance. Xing He stepped out from the crowd with a faint smile on his face. Between his eyebrows, the 7 stars flickered with resplendent starlight. Suddenly, he extended a finger. His finger emitted a dense starlight, as if countless stars had condensed between his fingers in an instant. It carried a will of destruction. He pointed his finger at the restriction. The Star Clan's unparalleled unique skill, Star Kill, Meteor Finger. Meteors were the embodiment of destruction. This finger attack contained the will of the meteor, and contained the terrifying killing intent of the meteor. He pointed out a finger. It was dazzling, but it also contained a terrifying destructive force. Bang! The fallen star finger landed on the restrictive spells, and the terrifying restrictive spells were actually pierced through. Millions of restrictive spells were destroyed under the power of the finger, and cracks appeared on the restrictive spells. Xing He saw this and smiled faintly. His figure flashed, and he passed through the restriction. After entering the tomb, he glanced around and found an ancient tomb. He rushed into the tomb and disappeared. Bang! 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 Open! The ground shook violently. The Beast Clan's sovereign behemoth, Meng Tianqi, strode forward, causing the ground to shake violently. he extended his beastly claws and grabbed the restriction. He viciously tore a huge crack in the restriction. He broke through the restriction domineeringly and entered the ancient tomb. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. At the same time, a few quick-witted cultivators nearby were overjoyed when they saw that the crack Meng Tianqi had torn open was rather large and did not heal immediately. Without any hesitation, they turned into streams of light and hitched a ride through the obstruction of the restriction. They had actually taken advantage of the situation. Swoosh! Another silhouette appeared in front of the enchantment. However, this person didn't try to break through the enchantment. Instead, just like Ying Fan, this person transformed into an illusory shadow and shuttled through the enchantment. It was as though the enchantments didn't exist at all. It was another expert from the Shadow Clan. However, in terms of cultivation, he was superior to Ying Fan. Clatter! A cold girl in black walked through the air. She did not carry the slightest bit of aura as she walked. A strange palace lantern stood on her shoulder. When she arrived in front of the restriction, the lantern only spilled out a little light. The restriction quickly dissipated like the ebbing tide, allowing her to pass through without any obstruction. That young woman was Xian Ming, the outstanding genius of the Star Clan, Xing He. That's the star kill technique of the Star Clan. The Beast Clan's Meng Tianqi, the young genius of the Shadow Clan, Ying Buchuan. Who is that girl? She can make the restriction disappear on its own. That lantern must be an incredible treasure. One after another, the geniuses broke through the restriction and rushed into the tomb. Each one of them caused a burst of exclamations as they revealed the identities of the young geniuses. However, when they saw Xianming, almost no one knew who she was. She seemed to be shrouded in a mysterious aura. TSK. She's the best. The moment Fatty saw Xianming, his eyes shone brightly. He opened his mouth wide and almost drooled. Thin waist, round butt, big breasts, and that cold aura of hers. TSK. She's a beauty. A top-grade beauty. It would be great if she could be my wife. Sakura felt a chill in his heart, and he couldn't help but look at the little fatty with a strange look in his eyes. He thought to himself, this is really the best. The Force Clan has always been simple and honest. Since when did they have someone like this? That expression, damn it, is the expression of a pervert. In an instant, Fatty Lee's understanding of the Force Clan was overturned. Who would have thought that Fatty Lee's simple and honest appearance would hide the burning heart of a pervert? Big bro! Tu Ling couldn't help but blush. She reached out and pinched Fatty Lee's waist, then stomped her feet and shouted. At the same time, he glanced at Di Shirtian with embarrassment. Who's that girl? Di Shirtian's attention was immediately drawn to Xianming, especially when he saw the lantern. His eyes shone brightly as he recognized it. It was the Netherworld ghost lantern he had seen in the Heaven Demon's secret realm. It was the most precious treasure of the ghost folk. Could she be a ghost folk? That was the thought in his mind. He thought to himself. As he pondered the matter, they arrived in front of the restrictive spell. 3 at a time, they immediately attracted the attention of many cultivators. He's wearing a purple gold mask and has the aura of an emperor. That's Demon Emperor Di Shirtian. Even he's here. I heard that he once cultivated a perfect world seed and blocked heaven's punishment. He even killed the Black Demon Young Master, Black Pupil, while being surrounded by thousands of people. Now that he's here, could it be that he has already refined that seed? The Demon Emperor is a treasure. Humph. Di Shirtian had the clairaudient ability, so he could easily hear the discussions around him. However, he didn't do anything. He just snorted coldly. A purple light flashed between his brows as he used the delusion breaker. He took a step forward and a light flashed in his hand. The tiger soul drew a strange trajectory and instantly cut the restrictive spell. The strange thing was that the place where the blade cut was the weakest part of the restrictive spell. The blade easily cut a crack in the restrictive spell. Then, it passed through the restrictive spell. What a sharp blade technique! He can actually grasp the weakness of the restrictive spell in an instant. Tu Ling Er's eyes revealed a strange light. She saw the true essence of the blade. She couldn't help but have a strong sense of curiosity in her heart. Brother D, which ancient tomb do you think we should enter now? Little Fatty's two small eyes rolled around and quickly scanned the surrounding ancient tombs. He found that some ancient tombs were engraved with tombstones. Obviously, they represented the names of the ancient tomb's owners. True Monarch Tianmu. True Monarch Hua Shui. Heart-snatching Demon Emperor. Ghost Venerable. Sakura swept his gaze over and memorized those ancient tombs with names in his mind. Obviously, these names represented the cultivation and reputation of the ancient tomb's owner to a certain extent. When he swept his gaze over the ancient tomb of Venerable Ghost, a wisp of bright light appeared in his eyes as he said, "Since the three of us have joined forces now, then naturally, the more formidable the ancient tomb is, the more benefits we'll be able to obtain. Let's go with this one." Since they dared to call themselves venerable, it meant that the ancient tomb owner was at least an ancient venerable when he was alive. Judging from the name, he was a venerable who played with ghosts. Obviously, in this ancient tomb, the tomb of a venerable was the most honorable, and the treasures it contained would definitely be more abundant. If one entered the tomb of a venerable alone, it would be disastrous. But now that there were three of them, they might have the qualifications to enter. Tu Ling Er's eyes were intertwined with a layer of strange colors. She said, "Yes. With our strength, we might be able to enter." Bang! Once confirmed, without any hesitation, they waved their hands and blasted the ancient tomb open. The three of them rushed into the tomb of a venerable. At this moment, outside the Thousand Tribulations cave abode, in the 4 heavenly gates of the Thousand Demon City, the lights on the heavenly gates flickered continuously without any pause. A large number of demons were transported out of the heavenly gates. When the batches of demons walked out of the heavenly gates, there were joy, confusion, and too many complicated expressions in their eyes. Moreover, the demons that entered could be said to be of mixed quality. There were spirit beasts that had just gained intelligence, demonic beasts that knew how to absorb the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, and also small demons that had cultivated their inner cores and transformed into human forms. Among them, there were 1 or 2 demons with first or second transformation demon cores. The number was extremely large, and they were transported out almost continuously. As soon as they entered the Thousand Demon City, a large number of original demon soldiers immediately began to arrange. Swoosh! Suddenly, the heavenly gates flickered. Immediately, they saw Chihua and the others being transported out of the heavenly gates in a sorry state. His face was ashen. He shouted, "Let's go, follow me to meet the Demon Empress and the military advisor. If you want to know what happened next, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author, support the original reading." Chapter 688. Chihua was followed by Long Rui, Shui Ling and 1,000 azure dragon soldiers as they rushed to the Jade Pool with a gloomy expression. Soon, they arrived at the Jade Pool and met with Chen Shi and King Nightmare. They quickly reported the matter. A wisp of wisdom appeared in the silver-haired old man's eyes as he muttered, "The Thousand Moon World is one of the great thousand worlds. Within the Thousand Moon World, there are thousands of moons that are filled with boundless moonlight. For those who practice moonlight cultivation techniques, there are endless benefits. The Thousand Moon Sect is in charge of the Thousand Moon World. The sect's cultivation technique is the Imperial Moon Flying Scripture. The sect's strength cannot be underestimated. With tens of thousands of years of history, there must be many venerables in the sect. Because of the power of moonlight, the chances of the Thousand Moon World giving birth to people of the monster race is much higher than other worlds. There are estimated to be no less than 100 million monster race in the entire Thousand Moon world. The Thousand Moon sect's strength and foundation are all from the corpses of the inner world's demon race. They cultivate by enslaving the monster race. The Thousand Moon sect cannot remain. Silver Hair spoke leisurely, and all kinds of information came out of his mouth. It was clear that he knew a lot about the Thousand Moon world. Demon Empress, military advisor. Chihua's eyes were almost spitting fire as he said, "The Thousand Moon sect obviously won't allow us to move our monster race brothers out of the Thousand Moon world." The moment the Heaven Gate projection descended, it was shattered by a venerable of the Thousand Moon sect. "I request to send the Blood-Kill General and the Blood-Kill Guard. My Azure Dragon Legion will slaughter the Thousand Moon world. Kill one to warn the rest." There was a strong killing intent in his voice. Chihua never had a good impression of human cultivators. He even had a blood feud with them. Back then, his son was killed by Zhong Yuntian. This blood feud was still deeply imprinted in his heart. In the exquisite treasure pagoda, Di Shirtian used all kinds of spiritual wine and heavenly essence pills to nurture them. After hundreds of years, Chihua and the other important figures of the Thousand Demon City had all reached the seventh transformation realm, the ancient Great Demon Realm. Even though he had only just stepped into the Great Demon Realm, he was still a great demon. As long as he had enough time to consolidate his cultivation, his strength and battle prowess would increase by leaps and bounds. It had to be said that when a man achieves the Tao, even his chickens and dogs will ascend to the heavens. Silver Hair pondered for a moment, then suddenly turned to Chen Shi and asked respectfully, "What does the Demon Empress think?" There seemed to be a strange light in his eyes. There was an inexplicable expression on his face. Chen Shi shook her head slightly and said, "I'm only in charge of the Jade Lake. Since Shirtian has handed over the command of the return to the ancestral roots plan to Mr., you can do it boldly as long as you think you should do it. I won't interfere. It will affect Mr.'s layout." Chen Shi herself was an extraordinary woman, and now that she was the Demon Empress, she even possessed the bearing of a motherly model of the world. Her intelligence was high, and it was absolutely not inferior to anyone. Instead, she was able to see through things extremely clearly. He didn't have any great desire for power, so he naturally wouldn't recklessly interfere with the decision-making at this moment. Upon hearing this, the silver-haired man felt even more respect for Chen Shi. She thought to herself, she can be the Demon Empress. His Majesty was right. After bowing respectfully, he immediately ordered, "Pass down my orders. Gather the Azure Dragon army and form up in the Thousand Moons domain. Dispatch 2 blood-killing generals and 10,000 blood-killing guards to bring Shin Gongbao to the Thousand Moons domain. Slaughter the Thousand Moons sect and kill without mercy. May the Demon Empress issue a decree to dispatch the blood-killing generals and Shin Gongbao." After speaking, the silver-haired man asked Chen Shi for orders. The blood-killing generals, blood-killing guards, and even Shin Gongbao from the heavenly prison were all not something the silver-haired man had the authority to dispatch. Even if he gave the order, he couldn't command them. Now, in the Demon City, only Chen Shi had the authority to give orders. "All right." Chen Shi nodded and agreed. The Thousand Moons sect must be destroyed. The return to the ancestral roots plan must not fail. If we want to move all the demon clan bloodlines from the various worlds into the city, we must use thunderous methods to intimidate everyone. This time, not only must we slaughter them, but we must do it cleanly. We must kill all those who are wavering and make them fear us. In the various worlds, there were countless people watching in the dark. Once the return to the ancestral roots plan was obstructed, the entire plan would be destroyed. In this world, strength was what mattered. The demon clan's reputation had been lost since the ancient times. Now, if they wanted to earn it back, they had to use thunderous methods and kill to establish a foundation. They had to kill all those who were wavering and make them fear the demon clan and not dare to fight to the death. Boom! Boom! Azure Dragon Army, form up! In the demon city, in a military camp, the Azure Dragon war flag fluttered wildly. The Azure Dragon on it was vivid and lifelike. Chihua and the other two commanders arrived at the military camp. With a roar, countless Azure Dragon Army soldiers quickly walked out of the camp. In an instant, they lined up neatly. Boom! Boom! After getting into formation behind the Azure Dragon war flag, the Azure Dragon demonic soldiers took 3 steps forward in unison. These 3 steps did not make the slightest bit of noise. The 300,000 demonic soldiers moved as if they were one person. When they lifted their feet and when they landed, they all stepped on the same point. These 3 steps were terrifyingly orderly. When they stepped on the ground, it almost caused the earth to tremble. The mountains and rivers shook. It was as if thousands of soldiers and horses were surging forward. Every one of them was wearing the Azure Dragon war armor. Their bodies were overflowing with a strong murderous aura. Their eyes were shining. After cultivating in the exquisite treasure pagoda for hundreds of years, every Azure Dragon guard in front of them had the cultivation of an ancient demon king at the 5th transformation realm. That aura was even more fierce and unyielding. Chihua quietly glanced at his subordinates and said in a deep voice, "My sons, the Demon Empress has ordered a massacre of the Thousand Moon sect. Blood massacre! Blood massacre!" A fierce, murderous aura instantly overflowed from the Azure Dragon guards as they roared. The roar that was full of murderous intent instantly shook the void. With a supreme murderous intent, it instantly pierced through the void and swept in all directions. In the city, some of the weaker spiritual consciousness only felt that countless terrifying murderous fantasies appeared in their mind. They could not help but feel terrified, especially those who had just moved in. Many of them were so scared that they directly lay on the ground. They were intimidated by the terrifying military might of the Azure Dragon army. "Line up, Azure Dragon war formation!" Chihua shouted and appeared under the Azure Dragon war flag. He led the entire army. The war flag was waved, and the entire Azure Dragon Guard quickly moved, forming a mysterious battle formation. At the same time, the entire war flag directly turned into a strange cloud and instantly enveloped all the soldiers. Roar! In the cloud, a huge azure dragon that was 3,000 feet long roared and directly rushed into the sky. It shuttled back and forth in the clouds. With a fierce step, it rushed into the heaven gate and disappeared. Then, 100,000 blood massacre guards stepped into the heaven gate with cold murderous intent. Hiss! That vast military might and terrifying murderous intent instantly swept through the city. It caused the cultivators who were still in the city to gasp one by one, and a look of horror appeared in their eyes. I heard that the Thousand Demon City has 4 major armies: Azure Dragon, Vermilion Bird, White Tiger, and Black Tortoise. I didn't expect the army to be so powerful. That's the battle formation. The Azure Dragon condensed is probably comparable to the ancient giant. Can't be underestimated. The strength of the Demon Clan is advancing rapidly. I'm afraid the rise of the Demon Clan will be difficult to resist. There's also the Blood Massacre Guard. That's the trump card. TSK. Each one of them has a terrifying strength comparable to a demon saint. I really don't know where they got such monsters. Thousand Moon Sect, isn't that the strongest sect in the Thousand Moon realm? I heard that the Thousand Moon Sect used the Demon Clan's inner core to refine elixirs so that they could develop rapidly. Their strength is completely built on the Demon Clan. Now that the Demon King of the Thousand Moon Sect has ordered all Demon Clans to return to the sect, the Thousand Moon Sect will definitely not give up on the Demon Clan in their realm. This conflict is inevitable. Haha, looks like there's a good show to watch. Let's see with our own eyes if the Thousand Demon City has the strength to destroy a great thousand world. The mobilization of the 1,000 Demon City's army instantly caused countless people to discuss. They were even more shocked by the strength of the 1,000 Demon City. For a time, a storm was brewing. At this moment, in front of the Heaven prison, a huge prison carriage was placed in front of the door. The prison carriage was made of divine crystals, and judging from the quality of the divine crystals, it was a high-grade divine crystal. On the surface of the divine crystals, there were countless runes imprinted on them. Hundreds of millions of restrictions and countless formations were constantly circulating, and each crystal pillar was imprinted with mysterious runes. In front of it there were 2 huge silver bulls pulling the prison carriage. The bulls exuded a violent aura and were extremely dangerous. There was a faint bloody light flashing in their eyes, and on the backs of the bulls, there were 2 blood-killing generals. Astonishingly, they were the bulls that Sakura had brought out from the Tower of Babel back then. Clatter! Clatter! In the Heaven prison, the sound of iron chains being dragged could be heard. The prison door opened and Shin Gongbao, who looked like an immortal, walked out of the prison. His hands and feet were all chained up. Behind him, a blood-killing guard placed a blood-red battle sword on his neck. If he made any move, he would be killed in an instant. Shin Gongbao's face was completely mournful now. Looking at the cold blood-killing guards around him and the cold sword on his neck, he raised his head and looked at the sky speechlessly. "I'm so pitiful!" A sorrowful cry came from Shin Gongbao's mouth. Bang! Di Shirtian directly broke into the ancient tomb where Ghost Venerable was with Tu Xingsuan and his sister. As soon as they entered, the door of the tomb behind them instantly closed, sealing the entire ancient tomb on the spot. It was pitch black all around. It was full of terrible darkness, and gloomy cold air filled every inch of the air. An oppressive aura spread out. No matter how dark it was in their eyes, it was as bright as day. There was no difference at all, and the scene around them was clearly reflected in their minds. "Be careful!" Tu Ling called out softly. Looking around, it was a tomb path. On both sides of the tomb path, there were murals, and the scenes in the murals were pictures of various evil spirits. It looked chilling, as if they were in the ghost palace of the netherworld. To be continued. If you want to know what happens next, please go to www.chidian.com and read more chapters. Support the author, support the original reading. Chapter 689. Moreover, the ferocious ghosts in the murals seemed to have a life of their own. They kept changing, forming all kinds of scenes. For example, there were withered vines, old trees, dusky crows, small bridges, and flowing water. There were also scenes of rich and powerful families. There were also scenes of beggars begging for food, generals riding on horses, and so on. All kinds of fantastical scenes kept appearing in the murals. They were so lifelike that they felt like they were real. Scenes of the world appeared one after another in the murals. Although the surroundings of the tomb were filled with a terrifying dark scene, the pictures in the murals were clearly reflected in the eyes of Di Shirtian and the 2 Xing-sun siblings. These murals, Tu Ling had a strange look in her eyes. She walked in front of one of the murals and looked at it carefully. Obviously, she found that these murals were not ordinary things. There was something strange about them. "Hey!" A voice of bewilderment rang out. Suddenly, a strange suction force appeared from the murals and landed on her body. This suction force was abnormally strong. Not only that, the entire ancient tomb seemed to have transformed into a ferocious beast that ferociously pulled her body into the murals. The murals transformed into a strange vortex that resembled a strange and motley scene. They were instantly swallowed. At the same time, Tu Ling's figure appeared in the murals. She was actually swallowed by the murals. At the same time, Di Shirtian and Tu Xingsun, who were looking at the other murals, felt the suction force coming from the murals and the powerful force of the entire ancient tomb. They were involuntarily swallowed by the murals in front of them. In an instant, their figures appeared in the murals. This ancient tomb is indeed full of strange things. Even the murals have such strange power. Di was now in the 9th transformation monster core. With the ultimate emperor mask, the power in his body was comparable to that of an ancient demon sage. This power was real. In addition to the 66 Dharma Laksana in his body was as strong as a demon sage's. Even if his cultivation was only at the peak of the 9 transformations Yaodan realm, he had the power to challenge ancient demon sages. In other words, he was comparable to an emperor-level expert. However, such strength was unable to resist the strange power coming from the ancient tomb. He was directly pushed into the murals. Ancient tomb of a venerable. It seems like venerable ghost's strength was extraordinary before he fell. Di Shurtian's mind spun as he secretly guessed that the mysterious force from before ought to be a contingency left behind by the venerable ghost, or even a restriction, and its function was to force him into the mural. Fine. Let's see what kind of tricks this place has. Since he was already here, he might as well make the best of it. Sakura also wanted to see what kind of mysterious methods were hidden in these murals. Making up his mind, he raised his head and swept his gaze across the surroundings. With a single glance, he couldn't help but be astonished. This is actually a world of murals. Looking at the surroundings, there were birds chirping and flowers fragrant. The trees formed a forest. The birds spread their wings and flew high in the sky. A gentle breeze brushed past, bringing with it a trace of fresh air. The scene was extremely lively, and there was a faint, tranquil aura. Being in this world, one could not help but feel a sense of sublimation. All of a sudden, he heard a series of shouts. Qin Yunzi, you are despicable. You actually took advantage of my injury to shamelessly launch a sneak attack on me. Is this the bullshit face of your righteous sect? A voice filled with grief and indignation rang out. That voice was filled with anger and despair. Humph! Everyone in the righteous sect has the right to kill the remnants of the demon clan. If this spreads out, it will only make the major sects praise me for my righteousness in eliminating demons. Why would they slander me at all? Heavenly Fragrance Fox King, no matter how cunning you are, you have still fallen into my hands. I'm not afraid to tell you that this net is called the Demon Trapping Net. It is a treasure specially refined to deal with the demon clan. The more you struggle, the tighter it will be trapped. With your heavily injured body now, don't even think about escaping. An old Taoist priest stroked the beard on his chin proudly, full of self-satisfaction. He looked forward. His eyes revealed a kind of greed and strong desire. You are courting death. Di Shurtian's pupils contracted violently, narrowing into a thin line, shooting out a terrifying cold light. An unknown anger surged in his chest. This anger emerged invisibly when he saw Heavenly Fragrance being trapped in the net. At this moment, the moment her palace dress was cut into thousands of pieces, it reached its peak. He stretched out his right hand and poked forward with a finger. The moment his finger poked forward, it rapidly expanded into a terrifying purple-gold finger and broke through the void. His face was full of coldness. This finger was not aimed at Qin Yunzi, but at Bai Hu Su Tianxiang, who was trapped in the net. Seeing this scene, Bai Hu Su Tianxiang's expression changed drastically, revealing a pitiful look. An invisible charm spread out, causing people to unconsciously feel pity for her. However, Di Shurtian turned a blind eye to it. His heart was as cold as steel. His finger broke through the void like a bolt of lightning and poked Bai Hu Su Tianxiang. He did not care about her feelings at all. Bang! This finger did not touch Bai Hu Su Tianxiang. The moment it was about to touch her, Bai Hu Su Tianxiang's body seemed to have turned into nothingness in an instant, and she escaped from under the finger. At the same time, she snorted, Di Shurtian, do you really have a heart of stone? Do you want to kill even me? At the same time, on the ground around them, countless strange vines silently spread towards Di Shurtian's position. Humph! How dare you use such a petty trick in front of your ancestor? You want to use someone close to I Su Tianxiang to disturb my mind? Wishful thinking. Di Shitian glanced coldly at Qin Yunzi and, by Hu Su Tianxiang. Under his calm face, it was as if a volcano was about to erupt. The coldness in his eyes could almost completely penetrate them. He said coldly, I hate this the most in my life. Since you dare to pretend to be Tianxiang Su Tianxiang, I will make sure that you will never be able to ascend. You want to disturb my mind with such a trivial fantasy? The delusion breaker I can break all illusions. Return to your original appearance. When he entered the mural, the scenery around him was vivid and lifelike like a painting. However, Di Shitian, who had experienced the test of desire time and time again, had seen more realistic scenes than this. How could he be confused by the scenery in front of him? This must be an illusion created by the mural. Heavenly punishment, divine eye, delusion breaker. Between his eyebrows, a purple light flashed, and the heavenly punishment divine eye opened instantly. A purple gold divine light that contained the power of delusion breaker shot out from the divine eye, turning into millions of divine lights that spread out in all directions like a tide. Ah! Ah! Wherever the divine light went, the scene outside his body changed drastically, as if the heavens and earth had been turned upside down. In the midst of mournful screams, towering trees, all kinds of flowers and plants, mountains and stones, birds and beasts, under the illumination of the divine light, were transformed strangely. Fierce ghosts with ferocious faces and terrifying eyes appeared in front of him. In the blink of an eye, the picturesque forest turned into countless terrifying fierce ghosts. And Di Shitian was in the midst of these countless fierce ghosts. Among them, the two ghosts that had transformed into Bai Hu and Qin Yunzi also revealed their original appearances under the delusion breaker divine light. They were a beautiful female ghost and an old ghost with an unfriendly face. Humph, a demon with such vigorous qi and blood. I didn't expect you to have some magical powers. The old ghost looked at Di Shitian with a trace of terrifying greed in his eyes. Tsk, if I devour your essence and blood, I might be able to escape from this ghastly mural. So what if you don't fall for it? I'll tear you apart today. He turned to the countless fierce ghosts around him and shouted, All ghosts, listen to my command. Tear him apart for me. With a loud shout, the ominous glint in the eyes of countless malicious ghosts suddenly became more intense. They let out strange cries and rushed towards Sakura with the fastest speed. In their hands, they were holding all kinds of ghost weapons. They emitted a chilling aura. 2 ghost lords and 100,000 ghost kings. You're not weak, but you can't do anything to me. Di Shitian scanned the surroundings, and a cold smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. All jailers, listen to my command. Detain the fierce ghosts. Boom, 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 boom. Suddenly, the scene outside Di Shitian suddenly changed. The projection of the nether prison suddenly appeared outside his body. All kinds of purgatory appeared, and countless godly spirits were suffering all kinds of punishments in the purgatory. They let out shrill cries, and all kinds of terrifying scenes flashed back and forth. Whoosh! In the nether prison, jailers wearing purple armor and holding black soul-retrieving chains in their hands quickly appeared. Their expressions were cold. With a wave of the soul-retrieving chains, the fierce ghosts around them were instantly tied up by the chains. The ghostly power in the fierce ghosts seemed to disappear in an instant, and they were strangely imprisoned. Fierce ghosts? Being arrogant in front of Di Shitian was simply disliking that he had lived too long. Extreme Emperor Imperial Seal, Taotai Seal. Di Shitian took a step forward and flipped his palm. An ancient seal flew toward the 2 ghost lords. The Taotai appeared in the ancient seal and swallowed the 2 ghost lords. He grabbed the ancient seal and pressed it between his eyebrows. He said coldly, I said that you will never transcend, so you must never transcend. I can use you as a sacrifice to nurture the sacred spirit of lust. Chapter 690. With his Yaodan ninth refinement stage and the ultimate emperor mask on, his strength rivaled that of a demon sage. With a flip of his palm, he suppressed the two ghostly lords. With this suppression, a boundless sense of pride surged through his body. Once upon a time, he was just a little black tiger who knew his fate. But now, two ghostly lords were easily suppressed by him. This was true power. As long as there are enemies, they must all be suppressed, all must be killed. Thinking about how these two ghostly lords had dared to take the form of white foxes to tempt him, he couldn't help but sneer inwardly. Almost immediately, he knew what they were plotting. They wanted him to play the hero and chase away the ghostly lord who had taken the form of Qin Yunzi. Then, the ghostly lord would use her beauty to seduce him. Once he couldn't control himself and had sex with her, the ghostly lord would be able to silently devour his vigorous qi and blood, his pure skills, and even his soul. They wanted to use his yang to nourish his yin. Sakra didn't abstain from lust, nor did he abstain from sexual intercourse. However, how could he do it so casually? A mere female ghost wanted to scheme against him. She was truly seeking death. Malicious ghost? The more the better. The more the better. Looking around, he couldn't help but chuckle inwardly. There were no less than 100,000 malicious ghosts. In the eyes of others, they were terrifying. But to him, they were just appetizers. Just as well. With these malicious ghosts as sacrifices, I should be able to condense the sacred spirit of lust. With a thought, his consciousness gathered in the inner world, the heavenly punishment world. In the Tian Fa world, all kinds of metal elemental materials had already been placed in a corner. Looking around, the ground was still quite barren. It was difficult for even a blade of grass to grow. Moreover, there was an abnormal lack of heaven and earth yuan qi in the air. There was not a single living creature in the area of 3,000 feet. However, there was a simple and mysterious altar in the center. All sorts of runes were intertwined on the altar, and on it, various rules of the Tao of Emperor and the Tao of Lust appeared. Tao fragments were filled with profound principles. Vaguely, one could see a strange pool on the altar. In the middle of the pool, there was a pool of colorful water. Colorful bubbles continuously rose from the water. Each bubble was filled with endless temptation. Altar. This was the Holy Spirit altar? He stood quietly in front of the altar, looking at the flickering divine light on the altar. Perfect world seed, combined with my imperial extreme world shocking book's supreme will, grand Tao, and all kinds of rules to form a divine item, the Holy Spirit altar. It will give birth to the Holy Spirit of my heavenly punishment world. Today, I will see if this altar is as miraculous as the information I received said. Every expert, when opening up their inner worlds, would receive the help of the world origin within their inner world. Thus, it was possible for them to give birth to unique divine objects within their inner world. For example, the 5 elements spirit spring, the birth of a lotus flower, the appearance of a sun, the appearance of a moon, and so on. Moreover, when the inner world was opened, it would fuse with one's cultivation method. It would take away the various conceptions and comprehension of the great Tao contained in one's cultivation method. In the end, the inner world would evolve into a world that was most suitable for oneself. The development of the inner world would be of great help and benefit to one's cultivation. As for the divine objects that were nurtured, they would also be biased towards one's cultivation method. Previously, when the inner world was opened, the Imperial Extreme World Shocking Book had intertwined with the world origin and fused together to give birth to this mysterious and strange Holy Spirit altar. In Indra Shur Tian's eyes, this Holy Spirit altar was absolutely important to the point of no return. This was because when the Holy Spirit altar was nurtured, the inner world automatically transmitted information into his mind. He knew the true purpose of the Holy Spirit altar. It was actually a sacrifice to nurture the Holy Spirit of lust. What was the Holy Spirit of lust? This was a kind of creature that had never appeared in the world before. It sacrificed its soul and sent it into the heavenly pool in the Holy Spirit altar. The heavenly pool allowed the power of the 7 emotions and 6 desires to seep in and intertwine with each other. It was like a wine cup that allowed all the souls to continuously kill each other inside, fusing with the supreme Tao of the Emperor's Tao and the Tao of lust. In the end, it gave birth to a mysterious Holy Spirit that perfectly fused with the Emperor's Tao and the Tao of lust. The most amazing thing about this kind of Holy Spirit was that because of the undying obsession of the Tao of lust, it was able to continuously nurture the power of lust within its body. It was like the source of lust, able to be born on its own. It did not need to be absorbed from the outside world to be emitted, causing the power of lust to gather in the Tian Fa world on its own. After fusing with the Emperor's Tao, the Holy Spirit that was nurtured was the strange Emperor. Not only could their bodies nurture the power of lust on their own, they could also emit the Emperor's purple qi that only emperors had. This was equivalent to saying that once one obtained a divine spirit, one's inner world, the Tian Fa world, would not need to rely on the energy of heaven and earth or even the power of desire from the outside world. It would be able to generate the imperial purple qi and the power of desire in the Tian Fa world on its own. Once it accumulated to a certain level, it would be able to be used for one's own cultivation. This kind of Holy Spirit was even more precious than all kinds of heavenly treasures and spiritual essences. To him, this Holy Spirit altar was a supreme treasure, a supreme divine object. In this world, there was probably no other treasure that was more suitable for him. Think about it, if there were tens of thousands of Holy Spirits in the inner world, the power of lust and the Emperor's purple qi that were produced at every moment would be terrifying. The endless power would be enough to push one's cultivation level up at an unbelievable speed. However, in order to obtain a Holy Spirit, one had to sacrifice a large number of souls. Moreover, the chances of nurturing a Holy Spirit were not very high. Perhaps a few hundred evil ghosts could nurture a Holy Spirit, or perhaps a few tens of thousands of evil ghosts could not nurture a single Holy Spirit. There was no way to control it. It was a natural nurturing process. "Let me in," Sher Tian casually pulled the 2 ghostly lords out of the Tao Tai, grabbed their necks, and threw them onto the altar. Boom, boom, boom. Immediately, the altar that had been standing still gave off a mysterious glow. It shook violently and countless runes appeared, exuding a sacred and noble aura. They turned into countless chains that bound the altar and pulled it into the heavenly pool. The moment they entered the pool, 2 screams were heard. In an instant, they felt countless inextinguishable obsessions crazily burrowing into their minds. Their desires were also magnified without limit. It was a horrifying scene. For a moment, their expressions kept changing. Even their ghostly bodies were constantly changing colors. One moment they were sad, the next they were happy, and the next they were angry. All kinds of emotions appeared on their faces. Bang! The old ghost's body glowed with a strange light. His face was contorted in pain, as if he could not withstand the corrosion of the countless obsessions. Suddenly, his ghostly body exploded into countless pieces. These pieces, under the power of the altar, turned into the purest and most mysterious power and poured into the other female ghost. After the blood was poured into her body, the female ghost's pained expression softened a little. Clang! The sound of chains rattling could be heard. One by one, the prison guards rushed out from the surroundings. The soul-retrieving chains in their hands were tied with numerous evil spirits. The faces of these evil spirits were completely filled with fear. Send them all into the altar. Judging from the expressions of these malicious ghosts, one could tell that they were definitely not good people. He didn't even need to go to the karma mirror to be able to tell. Without hesitation, he waved his hand and ordered all the prison guards to send the malicious ghosts into the altar. He had just seen with his own eyes that those who could not withstand the pressure inside had their souls scattered. He did not feel the slightest bit of guilt for using such methods on them. As expected, this altar is like a wine cup. It accepts the inextinguishable obsessions and the test of the Emperor's path. If one cannot withstand it, one will completely perish. Only those who can withstand it will be nurtured into Holy Spirit. Let's see whose body is stronger. 100,000 evil ghosts should be able to nurture 1 or 2 Holy Spirit. Although the altar was not big, the heavenly pool above it was like a different world. Every bubble was like an independent small world. No matter how many evil ghosts were sent in, they could easily accommodate them. The evil ghosts were all in great pain as they were eroded by the overwhelming obsessions that flooded into them. Many evil ghosts exploded on the spot. As their souls scattered, their original soul power was also absorbed by the other evil ghosts. It was their obsessions that allowed them to last longer. For a time, all kinds of scenes appeared on the altar. There is more than one mural in this ancient tomb. There must be a large number of evil ghosts inside. If I can devour them, I might have a higher chance of nurturing a Holy Spirit. This thought quickly flashed through De Chertien's mind. This place might be eerie and terrifying to others, but at this moment, it was a treasured place for cultivation in De Chertien's eyes. With a thought, he left his inner world. At this moment, he looked at the mural. The scenery around him was blank. The forest, the birds, and the beasts had all disappeared. Delusion breaker eye. Open for me. After absorbing all the evil ghosts in the mural, there was no need to continue staying. When he thought of the other murals outside, his heart burned with passion. He quickly found a flaw in the mural with the delusion breaker eye. With a wave of his hand, he blasted open the mural, creating a crack, and stepped out calmly. Pata! Stepping on the tomb path, he looked at the mural behind him. There was no scenery on the mural. It was just a blank white space. This mural is also a rare treasure. De Chertien's eyes lit up. This mural could absorb evil ghosts, and there was a strange space inside. It was definitely a good rare treasure. Good stuff. One could never have too many treasures. De Chertien's eyes lit up. With a wave of his hand, he took the mural from the tomb wall. Strangely, after the mural was taken out, it turned into a picture scroll and rolled into a scroll. It fell into his hand. To be continued. If you want to know what will happen next, please go to www.chidien.com. There are more chapters. Support the author, support the original reading. Chapter 691. Today is the 28th, and it will be May in 2 days. Let's fight in Jianghu again in May. Brothers, let's join hands and rush to the monthly votes list again. Next month, I will try my best. Let's blow the horn of battle. Jailer Soul Search. Invisible Dragon Rod. Mountain Moving Whip. After realizing that the murals around them were extremely rare sealing treasures, De Chertien and the others did not hesitate at all. They all used their means to capture the murals on the walls. De Chertien was not polite at all. He did not hide it in front of Tu Xing's son and his sister. With a thought, 1,000,000 jailers in the infernal purgatory flew out in a line. In groups of 50,000 jailers, they quickly rushed into the murals around them and captured the huge malicious ghosts crazily. Their efficiency was really incredible. A large number of malicious ghosts were captured into the inner world like a tide and sent to the altar. There was no other way. What De Chertien needed most now were these ghosts. The more, the better. When he took action, he would not be polite to Tu Xing's son and the others. In the blink of an eye, the murals were taken into his hands. Seeing this scene, Tu Xing's son was shocked. At the same time, he thought to himself, being able to become a demon emperor, he really has a powerful backup. Just these million strange underworld messengers, who are not inferior to the ancient demon kings, are a powerful force. he became more and more determined to be on good terms with Di-Shirtion. The demon clan was a good choice to find an ally in the clan. However, he still needed to observe Di-Shirtion's character. When choosing an ally carefully, one naturally couldn't be the slightest bit careless. Although Tu Xing's son was shocked by the powerful strength that Di-Shirtion casually displayed, he only kept it in his heart and didn't truly reveal it. His face was cheerful, but in his heart, he was constantly observing Di-Shirtion's every move. Bit by bit, he was probing Di-Shirtion's character to see if he was worth befriending, and if he could really become a firm ally. With the strength of the three of them, the malicious ghosts in the murals along the way could not stop them at all. They were all captured. In the blink of an eye, they had managed to obtain painting after painting of the 108 murals along the way. Based on the agreement they had made earlier, each of them would be given 36 murals. Even though Di-Shirtion was the fastest to obtain the murals along the way, obtaining 70 murals in total, he wasn't greedy at all. He only kept 36 murals and handed the rest over to the Tuxing Sun siblings. There were some things a man should do and some things he shouldn't do. Promises cannot be made lightly, promises must be made. This action made Tu Ling look at Di-Shirtion with eyes full of splendor. This ancient tomb was abnormally deep. Their surroundings were pitch black, but they couldn't obstruct them in the slightest. They quickly moved forward. The passageway of the tomb was indeed eerie and terrifying. Occasionally, gusts of 9 underworlds wind would blow. The terrifying cold wind that could blow away people's souls, the sharp blades in the cold wind, and all kinds of traps and evil restrictions along the way came one after another. However, in the face of Di-Shirtion's delusion breaker power, all of them were saved. He quickly broke through one restriction after another. With the three of them working together, the speed at which they explored the ancient tomb was unusually fast. The strange thing was that they didn't find any other treasures along the way. Bang! Finally, after 2 hours, they appeared in front of a huge tomb chamber. The tomb door was sealed shut with a heavy weight. However, this simple tomb door was naturally unable to stop the Li clan, who were known for their divine strength. The sturdy tomb door was smashed into countless pieces by Little Fatty's fist. Haha, I was right. This tomb chamber should be the main tomb chamber of the ancient tomb. There must be a lot of treasures hidden inside. Little Fatty's eyes shone brightly, and he happily rushed into the tomb chamber. However, the moment he rushed in, he seemed to have seen something inconceivable. His mountain-like body suddenly stopped. He stared blankly ahead. Hiss! One could clearly see the sound of him sucking in a breath of cold air. If one could see it, they would discover that his eyes had instantly widened violently. 100 ghosts parade. A stuttering voice came out of his mouth. What, brother, are you talking about the 100 ghosts parade? Tu Ling, who had followed him in, couldn't help but tremble slightly. She quickly followed Tu Xing's son's eyes and looked forward. Her expression changed slightly. Di-Shirtion entered the tomb chamber, and his sharp eyes instantly scanned the tomb chamber thoroughly. A lonely pitch-black coffin was placed in the center of the tomb. On the black coffin there were countless images of malicious ghosts. Those images were so lifelike that when one looked at them, it would cause one's heart to tremble. It was as if there were countless ghostly cries echoing in one's mind. It was as if they wanted to rush into one's body and devour one's soul. Strangely, on the black coffin was a strange 7-star lamp. It was simple and mysterious. Inside the lantern, there was a light that was as bright as the stars. The light seemed to have a life of its own as it jumped around like a spirit. Above this 7-star lantern, there was a pitch-black scroll that was spinning above the black coffin. Waves of black mist rose from the scroll, and within the black mist, terrifying ghostly screams could be heard from time to time. One after another, malicious ghosts floated up and down in the black mist, staring at them with cold and cruel eyes. There seemed to be a terrifying power emanating from the scroll. Even the soul within one's body was constantly trembling, as if it was trying to pull the soul into the scroll. The invisible power was terrifying to the extreme. Even Di Shirtyen's soul was faintly trembling, as if it were about to leave his body. Fortunately, with his willpower, he was able to stabilize his soul in an instant. Could this be the legendary treasure of the Ghost Dao, the 100 Ghosts Parade? When Di Shirtyen saw that picture, his eyes couldn't help but flicker. In his mind, a few famous ancient treasures that Ming had once explained to him surfaced. Among them, the 100 Ghosts Parade was one of them. 100 Ghosts Parade Diagram, a supreme treasure of the Ghost Dao created by fusing the Ghost Dao and the Formation Dao together. It was a supreme treasure of the Ghost Dao, and it was also a terrifying formation diagram. With a single thought, it could create a terrifying formation space where hundreds of ghosts roamed freely. The most terrifying thing was that within the diagram, one's cultivation base would be greatly suppressed and sealed. The scroll was filled with netherworld ghost chi. Anyone who entered it without being a ghost would be corroded by the netherworld ghost chi. It would corrode one's body, cultivation, and dermic powers. The most terrifying thing was that the malicious ghosts in the scroll were indestructible. As long as the scroll was not destroyed, even if the malicious ghosts were torn to pieces, they would be able to recover in an instant. It was as if they had an immortal body. They were incomparably ferocious and fearless of death. In the scroll, those malicious ghosts were terrifying monsters that would not die. Without the danger of death, the power that they could unleash would be terrifying. One could see how terrifying it was. Could easily absorb all kinds of ghosts. It was not only a Ghost Dao treasure, but also the nemesis of ghost cultivators. Legend had it that in ancient times, there was a powerful ghost cultivator called the Ghost Emperor of Fengdu. The most precious treasure that he carried with him was the 100 Ghosts Parade painting. In the painting, all the ghosts were refined from the most ferocious and sinful evil ghosts in the world. The quality of the painting had reached the level of a supreme treasure. The treasure was an acquired spiritual treasure. As for supreme treasures, in ancient times, they were supreme treasures that were comparable to innate spiritual treasures. Back then, the Ghost Emperor of Fengdu waved his hand and captured tens of millions of demon gods into the painting. In an instant, those tens of millions of demon gods were buried under the endless malicious ghost. Wherever it went, ghost chi covered the sky, vast and boundless. The Emperor's might was vast and boundless. It had dominated the ancient times, causing enemies to tremble in fear. It could be seen how terrifying the power of this 100 Ghosts Parade painting was. Unfortunately, only the Ghost Emperor of Fengdu seemed to know the refining method of this painting. No one could imitate and refine it. He did not expect to see it with his own eyes here. However, this painting was obviously not the one in the hands of the Ghost Emperor of Fengdu. Otherwise, just the power emitted from the painting would be able to instantly pull the souls of everyone in the tomb into the painting. They would be eaten alive by tens of thousands of ghosts. Treasure, this is a true treasure. I did not expect the Ghost Lord to have such a treasure like the 100 Ghosts Parade painting. If it was cultivated and developed into a supreme treasure, it would be an unparalleled weapon that could dominate the ancient times. Even though Tu Xing's son was also an outstanding member of the Li clan, his eyes could not help but light up when he saw this painting. His body, which was either fat or muscle, kept trembling. He was so excited that he almost trembled. It seems that the Ghost Lord's origin is not simple. Tu Ling muttered to herself. How could someone who could refine the 100 Ghosts Parade painting be an ordinary powerhouse? Seeing that Tu Xing's son was about to walk toward the black coffin, she quickly reached out and pulled him back. Brother, be careful. Don't act rashly. She did not know why, but the moment she entered the tomb, she vaguely felt an inexplicable sense of danger. Swish, 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 Suddenly, three illusory shadows suddenly emerged from the shadows below Di Shirtian and the two Xing Sun siblings. Moreover, in an instant, the pitch-black daggers in their hands ruthlessly stabbed at the backs of the three of them like lightning. This unforeseen event happened in the blink of an eye. When it happened, there was not even a trace of fluctuation, as if there was no sign at all. It was extremely abrupt. Assassination. The most terrifying assassination. This kind of assassination could simply stab a god to death in an instant. The speed, ruthlessness, and precision of the attack were simply amazing. The most terrifying thing was that there was not even a trace of killing intent. They could even hide in the shadows. This kind of assassination was simply impossible to guard against. Who would be able to guard against a dagger coming out from their own shadow? At the same time, an illusory figure seemed to be able to travel through the void. It directly crossed the void and swept toward the black coffin at lightning speed. It went straight for the few treasures on top. Be careful, this is the Shadow Clan's phantom doppelganger technique. Damn it, which Shadow Clan bastard actually sneaked in behind us? Little Fatty's expression changed greatly. Almost as the dagger was about to pierce into his body, a burst of earthy yellow divine light appeared on his body. His entire body instantly became as hard as the hardest rock. It collided with the dagger, making a crisp sound and sparks burst out. Humph! Di Shirtian's expression was cold, and a murderous intent emerged in his heart. If you want to know what happened next, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author, support the original reading. Chapter 692. What a good Shadow Clan! The killing intent in Sakra's heart soared, and he instantly understood. The phantom doppelganger technique was the unique secret technique of the Shadow Clan. Only those with the unique physique of the Shadow Clan had the ability to learn it and master it. In addition, the Shadow Clan had the innate ability to hide themselves in the shadows of all kinds of creatures. How could he not understand that this Shadow Clan member had followed them all the way here by hiding in the shadows of the three of them? Along the way, he did not reveal his emotions. Even when he encountered the ceiling treasure earlier, he did not act rashly. It was only when he entered the tomb chamber and saw the 100 Ghosts Parade portrait that he was completely filled with killing intent. It was clear that it wanted to kill the three of them in one fell swoop. At the same time, it rushed towards the black coffin, wanting to monopolize the 7-star ancient lamp and the Ghost Dao treasure floating on it, the 100 Ghosts Parade painting. All of a sudden, using the Shadow Clan's unique ability to assassinate, he used the Shadow Doppelganger technique to attack the three of them at the same time while he pounced on the 7-star ancient lamp. Ding! Sakra was furious in his heart. At the moment when the shadow launched its attack, he could feel the terrifying sharpness emitted from the dagger. Without even thinking, his precious body naturally emitted a sparkling and translucent light. That dagger pierced his back and landed on his precious body. Not only did it not break through the defense of his precious body, it instead emitted a strange crisp sound. Break! The Shadow Clan member did not even look at the Shadow Clan member behind him. He directly used his treasure body to block the attack. Without turning his head, he coldly spat out a word. His body naturally overflowed with supreme majesty. As the word break came out, the surrounding space twisted strangely. A terrifying sound wave instantly bound the Shadow Clan member and rushed over. Bang! It was a soft shout, but it contained the most domineering tiger roar sound attack. The invisible sound wave instantly shattered the shadow into nothingness. Pata! At the same time, Tu Ling-er's body emitted a sparkling jade light that protected her. The shadow's assassination attempt was blocked by the jade light. The mountain-moving whip in her hand lashed out, shattering the shadow and causing it to scatter on the spot. Although the phantom doppelganger technique was strange, Di Shirtian and the other two all had their own abilities and blocked the assassination. And in that split second, with the shadow blocking him, the mysterious Shadow Clan member's main body leaped through the void and appeared in front of the black coffin. Without even thinking about it, he reached out and grabbed the 7-star lamp on the black coffin. He was ready to snatch the treasure and leave. Damn you! Despicable! You actually dared to scheme against your grandpa Earth. When Tu Xing's son saw the Shadow Clan's actions, he was so angry that his nose was about to become crooked. His eyes were about to spit fire. He was clearly trying to step on their shoulders and snatch their treasures. When he thought of this, his lungs were about to explode. If you want to get the treasure, I'll let you taste the power of your grandpa's invisible dragon rod. Gritting his teeth, the words seemed to come out from the gaps of his teeth. It could be seen that he was filled with extreme hatred. Humiliation. It was simply a disgrace. He had been hidden by someone all the way and hadn't been able to detect it. He was even tricked. Thinking about it, he was also an elite of the younger generation. How could he take this lying down? With a cold smile, he took out the invisible dragon rod and was about to crash into the Shadow Clan member. However, in an instant, an arm pulled him back and said, "Brother, wait a moment." There was a strange tone in the voice. Di Shirtian, who was about to make a move, also stopped in an instant. Looking ahead, he saw that when the Shadow Clan member grabbed the 7-star lamp in his hand, he suddenly saw that among the constantly jumping flames in the lamp, a small flame strangely flew up from the lamp. With a speed that couldn't be seen with the naked eye, it instantly rushed toward the space between the Shadow Clan member's eyebrows like lightning. With the Shadow Clan member's cultivation, even if he came to snatch the treasure, he wouldn't relax his vigilance at all. However, in front of the flame that was only the size of a green bean, all his defenses were like nothing and were instantly broken. It entered the space between the eyebrows. Could it be the inheritance of a venerable? Tu Xing's son's expression couldn't help but change as he secretly exclaimed, "Ah!" However, before he could confirm his guess, he saw a ball of pitch-black ghostly flame erupt from the Shadow Clan member's body. Starting from the bottom of his feet, it went all the way up until his entire body was covered in ghostly flames. Within the ghostly flames, countless hideous and terrifying ghostly faces appeared. They let out terrifying ghostly screams. The Shadow Clan member couldn't help but let out a miserable shriek. His entire body appeared out of thin air, and his face was filled with terror. Possession. Di Shirtian's pupils constricted, and he felt as if his heart had been punched. He stared fixedly at the scene in front of him. Hiss! Tu Xing's son, who had been about to make a move, couldn't help but gasp. Could it be that the venerable didn't completely perish? He said in shock. He actually left behind a remnant soul? His body died, but his soul didn't perish. Is he trying to possess someone else's body to be reborn? The 7-star lamp, the power of the 7 stars, has the ability to store life and increase lifespan. Using the power of the 7 stars to refine a lamp and send a strand of soul into the lamp. Even if the body dies, relying on the power of the 7-star lamp, the remnant soul can be preserved for millions of years. The flame that flew out of the lamp just now must be the remnant soul of the ghost venerable hidden in the lamp. Tu Ling Er's expression also changed slightly, but she began to recite the secret as if she was very familiar with it. Indeed, none of the venerables who were able to cultivate to the level of ancient giants are simple. Di Shirtian calmly watched the changes in front of him. As the remnant soul of the Big Dipper lamp entered the Shadow Clan member's body, the 100 Ghosts parade diagram that had been floating above the black coffin suddenly appeared above the Shadow Clan member's head, faintly sealing off the area. He was guarding the ghost venerable's possession. The painting emitted a gloomy, terrifying, and dangerous aura. Even with Di Shirtian's abhijna, he didn't act rashly. With the protection of the 100 Ghosts parade painting, the ghost venerable's act of possession was almost irreversible. A trap. This was a trap set up by the ghost venerable. To be able to become a venerable, all of them were dragons and phoenixes among men, peerless geniuses. Such a person had a lot of experience and thousands of schemes. He was even more cunning than a fox. None of them were fools. Even if there was only a glimmer of hope, they wouldn't be willing to die. They would definitely set up all kinds of backups and schemes to set up a trap for their own rebirth. Clearly, the ghost venerable didn't leave behind any inheritance or various treasures in this ancient tomb, but his remnant soul. He wanted to use the temptation of the ancient tomb to lure the elites from all over the universe into the ancient tomb. Once they got close to the tomb and the Big Dipper lamp, the remnant soul hidden in the lamp would be able to use its possession technique. He had already planned to use the 100 Ghosts parade diagram to protect himself, so that he could peacefully possess the body and not give anyone a chance to disturb him. Although the setup was simple, it could achieve the most direct goal. What a ghost venerable! When D. Tion saw this scene, his vigilance towards those ancient giants was raised to the highest level. Heavens, luckily, this brother from the Shadow Clan got here first. What a wonderful step! Otherwise, wouldn't I be the one to be possessed instead of Old Earth? Old Earth laugh. Wouldn't that be terrible? Tu Xing Sun's face, which was about to swallow the other party, suddenly changed. He couldn't help but praise with a look of joy. If it wasn't for the Shadow Clan's sudden appearance, the target of possession might have been one of the three of them. This brother from the Shadow Clan, TSK, inadvertently helped to block a calamity. TSK. From the moment of possession to now, only a few breaths had passed. The strange ghost flame on the Shadow Clan's body quickly retracted back into his body. In the blink of an eye, it disappeared. At the same time, his appearance was revealed. It was a young man in his 20s. On his face, there was a strange paleness. In between his eyebrows, there was a pitch-black ghost tattoo. With a wave of his hand, he grabbed the 100 Ghosts parade painting above his head and let out a strange laugh. In the blink of an eye, he swept his gaze over D. Tion and the others. There seemed to be a strange expression in those dark green eyes. He shouted, "The three of you are really lucky. There's a reckless brat who snatched it to block the calamity for you. Today is the day of this lord's life, so I'll let the three of you go. As for the 108 sealing scrolls, they'll be my greeting gift to you. TSK, this lord is going." When the ghost venerable swept his gaze over D. Tion and Tu Xing, there was a trace of surprise in his eyes. He shrank slightly. With a strange cry, the 100 Ghosts parade painting rolled up and turned into a black light. In an instant, he escaped from the ancient tomb. In the blink of an eye, he disappeared without a trace. Everything happened in the blink of an eye. And the things that happened in this instant were simply shocking. Assassination, treasure snatching, possession, each scene was incomparably shocking. The unforeseen event happened so fast that it was enough to make people unable to react. In the blink of an eye, it was over. He ran away so fast. Sakra sneered in his heart as if he was deep in thought. Judging from the situation of Ghost Reverend's possession just now, his cultivation was definitely not comparable to his peak. At most, it was only at the level of an immortal emperor. Even if he had the 100 Ghosts parade painting in his hand, he might be able to suppress Ghost Reverend as long as he revealed some of his trump cards. Bang! At this moment, a bloody hand suddenly appeared in the tomb. As soon as the bloody hand appeared, it did not hesitate and directly pressed down on the black coffin placed in the tomb. The black coffin suddenly exploded, turning into thousands of pieces that quickly shot out in all directions. At the moment when the black coffin collapsed, the body of a middle-aged man in a black robe appeared in the black coffin. In the body there was no vitality at all. But naturally, it exuded a powerful aura. The bloody hand quickly fell on the body. Suddenly, the middle-aged man's body quickly melted at a speed visible to the naked eye. It turned into a pool of blood and fell to the ground. In the blink of an eye, it sank into the ground and disappeared. At the same time, in the Thousand Tribulations cave, in the mysterious blood altar, a pool of blood containing a huge amount of essence was instantly poured into it. The body of the young man lying on the altar slowly glowed with divine light. To be continued. If you want to know what happened next, please go to www.chidian.com. I support the author, I support the original reading. Chapter 693. The eyes of the young man in the blood altar were still closed, as if he was in a deep sleep within the altar. There was not the slightest hint of life on his body. However, when the blood water that contained an enormous amount of essence poured into the altar and was refined by the altar and sent into his body, the heart in his chest actually started to slowly rise and fall in a strange manner. It was so slow that it was almost undetectable if one didn't pay close attention. However, there was a faint trace of life in his body. Inexplicably, a strange smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. I, the myriad calamity ancestor, will be reborn soon. There seemed to be an invisible voice echoing in the altar. In Ghost Venerable's tomb, Sakra and the other two witnessed with their own eyes how the slough that Ghost Venerable left behind in the black coffin was strangely eroded into a pool of blood by a bloody hand and finally disappeared. With Ghost Venerable's cultivation as an ancient giant, even if his corporeal body had fallen, it still contained an unimaginably huge amount of essence. When it was turned into blood, that was the purest essence blood in the world. Such a grade of blood essence could only be possessed by a powerhouse who had reached the level of an ancient overlord. I see. In an instant, an idea flashed through Indra's mind. He immediately thought of the thousands of ancient tombs in the surroundings. He thought to himself, no wonder myriad calamity ancestor spent so much effort to move the ancient tombs from the land of chaos to the myriad calamity cave abode. It turns out that what he needs are the remains of the experts who died in the ancient tombs. What he wants is the huge amount of essence blood contained in the remains. No wonder. Most of the All Heavens cultivators who had entered the cave abode were of the younger generation. Moreover, almost none of them had surpassed the level of an eternal overlord. Even if the cave abode was filled with countless treasures, and ferocious beasts to instigate a massacre. But the essence blood of the fallen All Heavens cultivators could only be obtained. How could it compare to the fallen experts of the ancient times? Thousand Calamity Ancestors' plan. Most likely, they didn't just want to cause a massacre among the cultivators of the All Heavens. What they wanted was the essence blood of the experts in the tombs. After all, the cultivators of ancient times absorbed innate vital energy when they cultivated. The essence energy contained in their fleshly bodies was exceptionally pure. Thinking about it, he exchanged glances with Tu Ling, and the others. They all saw a trace of solemnity in each other's eyes. Boom! Boom! The ancient tomb shook violently. In the tomb, an ancient illusory door appeared out of thin air and stood in the middle of the tomb. Inside the door, ripples that looked like flowing water rippled continuously, emitting a strange aura. Brother D, if I'm not mistaken, this illusory door of illusions should lead to the king's tomb. Little Fatty's small eyes shone brightly. He exuded an excited expression. I'm afraid this illusory door of illusion won't last for long. The door of illusion was faintly showing signs of becoming more and more illusory. Once it disappeared, it would most likely disappear for real. It seemed that there was a time limit to its existence. Come, let's go in. D. Shurtion made up his mind without hesitation. Moreover, he took the lead and walked into the illusory door of illusion. After a moment of feeling as if he had entered a stream of water, the scenery in front of him suddenly changed. He looked up and scanned his surroundings. The scenery around him was unfamiliar. He was on an unfamiliar island. The island was not big, only less than 100 feet in radius. Moreover, the island was abnormally barren. There was not even a single plant or tree on it. However, there was an altar on the island, and a jade box was placed on top of the altar. The patterns on the jade box were simple and unadorned. There were faint flashes of light all around. He scanned the outside of the island. Tian couldn't help but reveal a trace of surprise in his eyes. All around them was a strange area. At a glance, he couldn't see any land at all. It was as if he was in a strange void. And in this void there were floating islands everywhere. The strangest thing about these islands was that they were in the shape of a pyramid climbing up in order. Moreover, the higher they went, the fewer islands there were. It was like a staircase to heaven, climbing up. At the very top, there was only one island standing tall. And now, the island Tian was on was the lowest level. And there were a total of 9 pyramids formed by islands in this void. The king's tomb is indeed strange. Tian carefully scanned the surroundings. After taking everything into his eyes, he had a certain guess about the scene around him. He muttered to himself, "It seems that the 1,000 Calamity Ancestor arranged this formation to let the people who enter continue to kill. The higher they go, the fewer islands there are, so the chances of the people who enter will continue to increase. Meeting each other. If there is a treasure in the altar on this island, under the drive of greed, I'm afraid that killing is inevitable. The higher they go, the crueler the killing will be." In the blink of an eye, he thought about the layout of this void in his mind. This was simply to let people kill from the bottom, step by step. Ha ha! Thinking of this, Tian couldn't help but let out a burst of wild laughter. A surge of heroic spirit welled up in his heart. "I have broken through to the 9th transformation of the Yaodan, and I want to have a good fight with the cultivators of the heavens. Let's see who is stronger between the elites of the heavens, the prodigies born with a golden spoon in their mouths, and me, the demon emperor who rose from nothing. To be able to enter the ancient tomb, one must be strong. To be able to enter the king's tomb, one must be an elite of the generation. To be able to compete with the elites of the heavens. It was not necessarily a bad thing." Looking up at the top, Tian's eyes emitted a blazing light. But he didn't immediately move to the altar on the island he was standing on. Instead, he sat down cross-legged. With a flash of light in his hand, 36 blank scrolls appeared in front of him. 36 sealing scrolls. If I fuse them together, I might be able to refine a rare sealing treasure. Tian thought to himself. After obtaining these 36 sealing scrolls in the Ghost Lord's ancient tomb, he had been deducing in his mind whether he could fuse these scrolls together to refine an even more powerful sealing treasure. Just now, he had seen clearly that as long as he didn't climb to a higher level on the island at the bottom, there shouldn't be any danger. But he wasn't nervous at all. He sat cross-legged on the island and began to refine the treasure. Outside the Myriad Tribulations cave abode. In the Myriad Demon City. In front of the heavenly prison, looking at the prison carriage in front of him that was built like an iron bucket, Shun Gongbao looked up at the void speechlessly. With a long face, he said, "Tian, you really think highly of this poor Taoist. Even the prison carriage is specially built. What is this? Even the sealing stone can be mounted on the prison carriage. Didn't I just take 2 of your treasures in the God's Fall Abyss? Do you have to be like this?" Looking at the prison carriage, given Shen Gongbao's many years of experience, he could tell at a glance that the material of this prisoner carriage was exactly the same as the one in the celestial prison. Moreover, it was of a higher quality. There were countless inhibitions and tactical deployments on it. What made Shen Gongbao's mouth twitch the most was the sealing stone inlaid on it. Damn it, he directly used a sealing stone to inlay it on top of the prison cart. If an ancient giant sat in it, more than half of the cultivators would be sealed immediately. They would become ordinary people. He couldn't help but cry in his heart, 1,000 days of hunting geese. This time I was really scared by the geese. Why didn't I notice that Tion would play tricks behind my back and let me run into the heavenly prison by myself? This time I won't really die, right? Thinking of the tight security around him, even a mosquito couldn't escape. I hope that after Lan Yu and Qing Yuan receive my message, they will quickly think of a way to save me. Otherwise, this Taoist will really be miserable. He smiled bitterly and entered the prison carriage under the suppression of the General of Blood massacre. The moment he entered the prison carriage, the vast sealing power of the sealing stone immediately suppressed his body. His cultivation was instantly suppressed to the freezing point. Moo! The three bulls roared. Under the command of the General of Blood massacre, they immediately moved their four hooves and pulled the prison carriage towards the southern heavenly gate. Chen Shi saw with his own eyes that the prison carriage passed through the heavenly gate. After thinking for a while, he said to Qing Xia behind him, Shen Gongbao's power of misfortune and disaster is extremely strange. This time, in order to suppress him, we had no choice but to replace the sealing stone on the western heavenly gate with the prison carriage. Bringing him out of the heavenly prison is to borrow his power of misfortune. Qing Xia, immediately lead 1,000 green phoenix swordsmen and follow him. See how powerful his power of misfortune is. Bringing Shen Gongbao to the 1,000 Moons realm was not without the intention of personally seeing how destructive his power of misfortune could be. Chen Shi was Shirtian's pillow. Naturally, he understood his intention. They only imprisoned Shen Gongbao and did not directly kill him. They wanted to subdue him. If they could subdue him, with Shen Gongbao, the god of misfortune, guarding the 1,000 demon city, it would be easy to eliminate all evil. It would be a complete killing weapon. At the same time, in the 1,000 Moons realm. In the realm, the space was almost boundless. The strange thing was that there was no sun in the 1,000 Moons realm. There were only 1,000 bright moons hanging in the void. Bright moonlight shone down, and endless moonlight power poured down endlessly, filling every inch of space between heaven and earth. It fell on countless flowers, trees, birds, and beasts in the realm, seeping into their pores. Bathed in the power of the moon, the most ordinary living beings were constantly undergoing transformations. The eyes of most of the living beings were filled with spirituality. Even the stupidest of wild beasts would constantly transform into monsters under the abundant power of the moon. From this, one could see how many demons were born in the 1,000 Moons realm. In the 1,000 Moons realm, there was a towering and incomparably huge peak. It was so tall that it almost reached the 1,000 bright moons. It could be called the first peak in the realm. It was called the 1,000 Moons Peak. On the peak of the mountain, there was a huge palace towering above it. Under the illumination of the moon, it looked incomparably holy. On the mountainside there were countless mansions and palaces. Above, countless disciples were absorbing the power of the moonlight and cultivating wholeheartedly. To be continued. If you want to know what happens next, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. I support the author and I support the original readers. Chapter 694. In the 1,000 Moon sect, there were 3 million inner sect disciples, 30 million outer sect disciples, and tens of millions of celestial servants who worked for the sect. The entire 1,000 Moon peak was like an iron bucket. The peak was protected by the 1,000 Moon sect's unique formation, the 1,000 Moon Tide formation. In the unique environment of the 1,000 Moons realm, the abundant power of the moon caused the 1,000 Moons sect to expand like a geyser. Among them, the flying moon scripture was also a top-tier cultivation method. In the sect, there were countless people with great potential. After tens of thousands of years, the sect had produced 9 venerables of the immemorial giant realm. Furthermore, the strangest thing was that the 9 martial highnesses were all women with peerless beauty. They were called the 9 saintesses of the imperial moon world. Among them, the first saintess was said to have reached the peak of ancient overlords. She was only one step away from becoming a peerless expert. She could catch the sun with the moon as if she was taking something out of her pocket. With a raise of her hand, there was a supreme power that could overturn rivers and seas. At this moment, in the Imperial Moon Palace at the peak of the Thousand Moon Peak, there were 9 cushions. There were a total of 9 praying mats in the hall. Those praying mats were not simple. They were made from the finest heavenly heart grass. Not only could they calm the mind and defend against external demons, but they could also increase the speed of absorbing the yuan qi of heaven and earth by 10 times. They could be called rare treasures. On the cushions there were 9 beautiful women wearing white robes. They were like fairies from the Moon Palace, but they all wore veils on their faces. They sat cross-legged quietly. If a Thousand Moons sect disciple came here, they would immediately kneel down respectfully. They would call themselves saintesses. The leader of the group was the great saintess. She glanced around the hall and said coldly, "The demon emperor of the city of demons wants all the beasts to return to their homeland. Last time, the projection of the gate of heaven was destroyed, so they won't give up easily. When they come again, there will be a great battle. Big Sister, our Thousand Moon world is filled with the power of the moon and has given birth to no less than billions of demons. The cultivation of our disciples is also closely related to the demons. A mere demon emperor who came out of nowhere wants to make all the demons return to our sect? That's ridiculous. If they dare to come again, just kill them," said the second holy maiden coldly. "The Thousand Moons realm belongs to my Thousand Moons sect. Any living creature born in the realm should be under my sect's command. The demon clan born in the realm is born as a stepping stone for the disciples of my sect. How could he allow that bullshit demon emperor to taint it? All intruders must be killed," the third holy maiden said coldly. His voice contained a wisp of terrifying killing intent. "You deserve death. Kill him!" In the hall, cold and indifferent voices were continuously spat out. The Thousand Moons sect was practically stepping on the corpses of the Yao clan in order to be able to reach its current prosperity. Medicinal pills refined from the Yao clan's inner core and transcendent treasures refined from various precious materials from the Yao clan were sold to the Yao clan, allowing them to obtain endless wealth. Wait a minute. How could the Thousand Moons sect, which obtained endless benefits from absorbing the flesh and blood of the Yao clan, give up on such a fat piece of meat in their hands? The orders of the 9 holy maidens instantly spread throughout the entire sect. Order: set up the Thousand Moons sword formation and face the enemy in the realm. All intruders must be killed without mercy. Order: all disciples above the immortal king realm, come out of seclusion and be on guard. Prepare to face the enemy. For a time, the Thousand Moons realm was filled with a tense atmosphere. The light of countless transcendent treasures constantly rose and rushed into the void. They were preparing to welcome the upcoming fierce battle. And in the dark, who knew how many pairs of eyes were silently watching the progress of the battle in the Thousand Moons realm? The sect returning plan swept through the entire world. And the Thousand Moons realm could be said to be directly challenging the sect returning plan, blasting the entire gate of heaven projection into smithereens. Provocation. Undisguised provocation. In an instant, the entire Thousand Moons sect had become the center of attention of the entire universe. Countless pairs of eyes were secretly observing the situation. Now, they were all paying attention to the development of the matter. Once the plan of returning the demonic beasts to the Thousand Moons realm was obstructed, it would be unimaginably difficult for the demonic beasts to return to the Thousand Moons realm. The arrogance of the Thousand Demon City would be directly suppressed. And if the Thousand Moons sect was destroyed, then the entire world would be shaken. In fear, they would have to give the Thousand Demon City some face. The sect returning all demons would be extremely smooth. It could be said that the battle in front of them would determine the success or failure of the sect returning plan. A battle that would affect the decisions of countless forces in the entire world. Roar! Suddenly, in the void of the thousand moons realm, countless terrifying ripples appeared. It was like the waves in the sea, violently fluctuating. A green dragon claw reached out from the void. The dragon claw waved forward, and with a crack, a terrifying crack was torn open in the void. Countless chaotic forces crazily intertwined in the crack. A huge dragon head charged out of the crack. In the dragon's large eyes there was a cold, murderous aura. Opening its mouth, it let out a domineering dragon roar. The invisible sound waves shook the entire crack until it collapsed inch by inch. The majestic dragon body that was 3,000 feet long fiercely crossed the realm from the crack. The demon emperor has ordered that the Thousand Moons sect obstruct the sect returning all demons. Slaughter the Thousand Moons sect. From the mouth of the azure dragon, a cold voice spat out. The dragon body shook, and green dragon chi spurted out from under the dragon scales. A vast dragon aura suddenly swept out in all directions. Under the pressure, the space around it showed strange distortions. This is the Azure Dragon army of the 4 great armies of the Thousand Demon City. It is said that the Azure Dragon army has the Azure Dragon battle formation. When they set up the battle formation, they can condense the true body of the Azure Dragon. It is indeed so. Looking at this Azure Dragon, it is probably not inferior to a Heaven Demon's strength. TSK. Looks like there is going to be a fierce battle between the Thousand Moons sect and the Thousand Moons sect. Those who secretly witnessed the might of the Azure Dragon were also greatly shocked. If it was calculated according to the 4 great armies, then according to the current might of the Azure Dragon army, if the 4 great armies were to move together and form a battle formation, their battle strength would be comparable to 4 heaven demons, which was equivalent to 4 supremacies. This power was not weak at all. Boom, boom, boom. In the void, thunderous sounds of footsteps could be heard. What is that? A prisoner carriage? A bull, a silver bull from the Tong Tian Tower. Using a bull to pull a prisoner carriage, and there are actually 3 blood massacre generals accompanying it. Hiss, who is imprisoned in the prisoner carriage. The blood massacre generals are being escorted, and the prisoner carriage is actually inlaid with a sealing stone. Look at the divine light, who knows how many restrictions there are. Who is it? Who is it? Who is it? Even if it is an unparalleled expert, it should be of this standard. This is clearly a battlefield. Why did they bring a prisoner carriage here? In the shock of countless experts, the specially built Forbidden Heaven God imprisoning carriage, which cost an unknown amount of effort and precious treasures, broke through the void. The moment it appeared, countless experts had countless doubts in their hearts. In the prisoner carriage, Shun Gongbao scanned the surroundings. His face could not help but turn white, red, and green. Even his nose and ears were smoking. A mouthful of blood rushed to his throat, and he was completely angered to death. He cried sadly, "Who can be more miserable than me?" In the king's tomb. In front of Di Shirtian, a purple-gold flame was burning fiercely. In the sky above the flame, 36 picture scrolls were constantly bobbing up and down. Countless mysterious runes were like needles, shuttling back and forth between the picture scrolls. Handprints were constantly being struck into the picture scrolls, and every time a handprint was struck, the picture scrolls were constantly trembling. Slowly, the picture scrolls began to melt. Divine flame of heaven's punishment, smelt all things, return to the origin. Di Shirtian's expression was dignified. Sitting cross-legged on the island, he quickly struck out countless mysterious seals. Suddenly, he let out a shout, and a huge amount of royal true force in his body was struck into the picture scrolls. Suddenly, the 36 picture scrolls burst out with a dazzling divine light. In the divine light, the picture scrolls began to collapse and melt, turning into mysterious talismans with sealing power. Each picture scroll was broken down into 365 talismans. After the 36 picture scrolls had all collapsed, suddenly 13,140 talismans appeared in the sky above the divine flame of heaven's punishment. They looked like countless butterflies, fluttering about in the air above the flame. Within the flame, strange power flowed into each and every one of the talismans. 9 Heaven's Godlock Stone. With a wave of his hand, a jade box flew out from his body. Inside the jade box, a fist-sized snow-white crystal was quickly thrown into the divine flame. Under the refinement of the divine flame, it quickly turned into a strange liquid. It turned into strands of silk and integrated into the talismans. For a moment, the talismans flickered with a mysterious halo. Many of the talismans split on the spot from 1 to 2. Furthermore, there was a mysterious power within the talismans. The 9 Heaven's Godlock Stone had the power to seal the soul. Could only be formed outside of the 9 heavens. Profound soul-capturing jade. Sumeru Stone. In Sakra's mind, he continuously deduced every step of the refining process at an inestimable speed. He took out one jade box after another, and in every jade box there were precious treasures of heaven and earth that could be said to be precious. Using the flame to refine them, he fused them into the talismans, causing them to split apart over and over again. The heavenly punishment god flame was one of the most domineering flames in all of heaven and earth, and could be concocted with incredible speed. The talismans split again and again. When all the auxiliary materials were smelted, the number of talismans hovering above the divine flame had already turned into a total of 123,600. 10,000-year heavenly silk, talismans assemble, sealing heavenly mirror, go. Once again, he took out a jade box. Within the jade box, a ball of sparkling and translucent silk instantly flew into the air. It quickly shuttled through the talismans that filled the sky. Like a thin thread, it connected the talismans together and quickly gathered together. Assemble! The 123,600 talismans began to shine with dazzling light, within which a strange, snow-white book began to take shape. The book was covered with mysterious, ancient vein designs that seemed to radiate a strange charm. On the cover of the book were 4 ancient, violet gold characters, the treasured mirror of sealing. To be continued. If you want to know what will happen next, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author, support the original reading. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Nights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.